Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome back to this week's GKP Live. I hope everybody's good. I hope you've all had a good week up to press, and I hope the future and the remaining of the week brings nothing but joy and happiness for us all, because we could do with some right now. We're pushing up into the back end of autumn and beginning of winter, and there is also lots of issues that brings, which hopefully will be one of the topics that we bring up this evening. At the present, I am here and rocking it solo. Daz won't be joining us this evening. I don't know if Craft is joining. I don't know if Rick's joining. I haven't heard anything back, but they have been sent the links. If anybody would like to join us this evening, there is a link at the top of the comments. Just at the top, if you see at the top of the comments, it's pinned and says Gaz's Koi Pond. If anyone would like to, click on that, follow the link, do as it's instructed, and you can more than welcome to come on and join us this evening. Fingers crossed, the guys will be on. If not, this will be a real short one. Daz is having the night off and getting himself sorted out. Obviously, can understand why with everything that's been going on for him for a late. So having a little bit of headspace. I believe we may very well have a couple of topics that we've got to talk out, but there is no koi appreciation this week. I think now we're pushing into the colder temperatures and the colder evenings and colder weekends that it's not such a good idea to be out there basically netting up your fish for nothing more other than just an appreciation. Might be people that are doing bits and bats and still have the odd fish. If you want to share, feel free. You can do if you're taking any photograph of your favorite fish or anything like that. But I don't want anybody doing it just literally for a Thursday Night Live. Dave Bailey says, I've seen Gaz. The duck is what? The duck is modelling. LOL. I've seen Gaz. The duck is modelling. Is Dave Bradley the gentleman that I was speaking with today? I don't know. Could be. We have got a couple of questions that we've got, and I've also got a couple of things that I would like to have a natter about and a chat about myself. If anybody else joins, if not, then I'll just chat with you guys, and we'll see where we go from there with audience participation instead. So. First one, let's go through a quick few of these comments, the ones that I was dropping in to say hello to everybody. Matt Charles did say the hi, Gaz, Daz, and panel. Obviously, mate, there is no panel as of yet. Max Duck being, oh, you've seen Gaz the Duck. That duck. Ah, no, I know what you're on about. Matt's Duck. Aaron says, I can join, but I'm in a bath. No, you're all good. Thanks, mate. I don't want to scare everybody off. Matt's Duck's been doing photo shoots. Right, there we go. Well, I haven't seen him myself personally, mate, so I'll have to take your word for it. No doubt, though, it's growing pretty quick because it was growing pretty quick in the last few weeks when he was showing it before. But they do, don't they? That's what they tend to do. Right. One of the first things I would like to try this evening is, for all those of you that have got an Alexa out there, turn your speaker up real loud. Turn it up to a volume where your Alexa can hear it. And then repeat after me. Alexa, how to say coffee bean 100 in Welsh. Hopefully now your Alexa is telling you. If not, try that one for size. That is going to be along with one of our new sayings that we're going to use instead of, well, not instead of, but as a replacement to the cricket bat, or something to run alongside of it. And for all those that just had their Alexa, just say that to them. I apologize. But it is a very good one. I'm hoping that a few people were going to come in and tell us exactly what their Alexa just said to them. But a new phrase will be, so if you hear it, coffee bean 100 is a nice new one to use whenever you want to say something to someone without them knowing exactly what you're saying. But it's a bit of a giggle. Second one that we've got going on then for this evening, and we will be having a look at it, is editing programs. A couple of people have been asking me on the kids laughed. Sorry. Apologies, Dave. FFA coffee. Yeah, so it did work then. Wicked. A couple of people have been asking, and I've had it asked in the group on the Facebook group, of what editing programs you should use or can use for when you're editing your software, your programs and such, when you're doing a YouTube channel. Now, personally for me, I have tried a couple of them out there, and some of them are really complex and really difficult and make it far more complex than what it needs to be. Rocket Boy, Koi Karma says, hi, Gaz. How you doing, mate? Hope you're well, Dave. The one that I use is a program called CapCut. And the reason why I use it is because they do both a mobile version and they do a laptop PC version as well. So that you can use it on the go and you can use it with ease. It's, oh, somebody did join there but decided they were going to drop off. Alexa said she would rather not answer that, which means Seska has parental control on her Alexa. There you go. It does work if you take off your parent control. Yeah. So as I was saying, if you've got your there we go. Glad you're in there, mate. How are you doing? Speak or forever hold your peace.
Evening, Gus. Right.
Good evening. You all right, mate?
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was saying, the one I use is CapCut, and the reason why I use it is it makes it very simple. It has lots of transitions, lots of built-in features, and there are tons and tons of videos on YouTube which you can watch along, learn from, and then try it and put it into process and use it on your own editing software or your own program that you're doing, or your own footage or your own videos that you're making and you're using. It's a free version, so you can use it easily every time you want for nothing, or you can pay for the subscription version, which is, I believe, something like $8 a month, something like that. It's not very expensive, but it has a lot more features in the purchase version, and they're really good. It's a really simple, easy process, a lot more simple to use than other programs that are out there, which can be extremely complex, really difficult for when you're trying to add in sections, snip bits out, merge other pieces into it and stuff like that. It can be a lot of technical information that a lot of people might find difficult. I know there are other free versions out there that a lot of people swear by and think that are pretty good, but after as long as what I've been doing it and messing around and editing bits and bats, I think that's one of the easiest, simplest ones that I've used personally myself. So there's a quick answer for a couple of people that have asked those kind of questions, and that's the one I use, which is just literally CapCut, free to download, and then you can upgrade it if you wish, if you want to use all the extra bits that it does provide.
I just sat on my arm instead of the chair. That wasn't good.
Now then, how are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, fine, mate. Thanks. Nice to see you.
How's the pond and the fish doing?
I asked you a question. I'm thinking of investing in one of them, them floating pond eaters that you can buy.
That's one of the topics that we've got this evening to talk about, mate.
It was me that suggested it. That's why.
Yeah. To be completely honest with you, mate, they are only a heater that's used really, not so much for heating your pond, but preventing it from dropping below minus, so the surface of your pond doesn't freeze. So you'll not find that you're going to get a great deal of heat from it, and you're not going to be taking your pond up to 15, 16, 17, 18 degrees. Well, you're just going to keep it above freezing. That'll prevent it from freezing the surface, keeping you an area for gassing off, which I don't really think is an issue in a modern day pond, because we don't have any products in the pond that break down to create gassing off. So most bottom drains pull away everything that we have in there, so there is no elements really to gas off. So it's not really much of an issue. But yeah, they just really stop your surface from, I mean, you might take it up a couple of degrees above,
according to this
ambient temperatures.
This is what I've been looking at. It's supposed to go up to 20 degrees and then switch it off.
It won't get you. There's absolutely no chance that it will get your pond to 20 degrees.
I don't know. As long as it keeps it from freezing, that's all I was really worried about.
If it got your pond to 20 degrees, it might do. It might get your pond to 20 degrees, but I wouldn't want to be fancy. I wouldn't fancy paying the electricity bill to do it. That is for sure. I would think that would cost you an absolute fortune. It'd be like having how many watts is it? How many kilowatts is it?
600 watts.
600 watts.
Yeah. I'm only looking at it. I ain't bought it yet, so
yeah. I would think that a 600 watts running in your pond to keep your pond warm, without any form of covers over the top to keep that heat in, would be literally just you boiling away the reddies, mate. I think it would be extremely expensive. I know there are some people that have had them and used them, and I do know there is a YouTuber out there, which is Kerry Coy, the gummy koi keeper. I do believe he used to have 2 in his pond. Whether or not he's still got them, he used to have them in a couple of years ago.
Well, I think the idea is I'm putting it on a night time only and putting it on a timer. I think
I could see that working, just to keep the cold temps off. But we all, you know yourself, it don't just get cold in the night time for a winter. It's cold throughout the day and the night, isn't it? All right, it might drop colder temperatures at the night time, but yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm not so much looking forward to the electric. To be honest, it's probably used.
Yeah, they're not cheap, mate. They're not cheap, and I wouldn't imagine they'd be long-term something you'd want to run continuously in your pond. I know just a tropical fish tank to keep it at 26 degrees with a 60, 70 watts is expensive enough indoors. So if you imagine putting in a 600 watts...
Perhaps that's a mistake then. Perhaps we've just invest in one of them pool heaters and be done with it. Save money.
If it was me, I would go with covering your pond and trying to maintain ambient temperatures a couple of degrees above outside.
Yeah, well, I've got some extremely thick, not normal bubble wrap. It's thicker. It's bubble wrap, but it's not normal bubble wrap. It's thick and it's clear and it's made of really thick plastic. I'm thinking of making a frame and putting that on it just to see what happens.
Imagine it will do something, but you want the UV light to be able to penetrate through it, which is what creates the heat and the warmth on the inside of it. The bubble wrap doesn't. I mean, bubble wrap is wrapping for protection and offers very little thermal insulation.
Maybe it's got air in between it. That's what makes me think it might be okay for a bit of thermal insulation. But then again, you might be right. I don't know. But it's not normal bubble wrap. It's a really heavy duty one, thick plastic.
There we go. You got pissing in the wind with a 600 watt standard air source heat pump. Standard air source heat pump, 600 watts, would give you a good turnover. 3 kilowatts to 5 kilowatt thermotech would be a better option. I would agree, mate, as well myself. I would have thought that using something like that, it's just really used to keep the ice from forming over, freezing over, yeah. But even that, to be fair, I don't do no harm to freeze over. It freezes over everywhere else, mate, and everything else makes it through the winter in far colder temperatures than what you've got in your pond.
Well, this is what my wife says to me. She says, Chris, she says, you're wasting your money. She says, there was 24 fish in there when you first cleaned it out. And they've been in there for about eight years, unattended, no food, no clean water, no nothing. And she's probably right, isn't she? There were no
I would say never argue with a wife, mate, because it's probably going to end up going down a horrible route where you end up being in the wrong.
It wasn't all cord. There's a mixture of comics and weird black things that ain't the foggish what they are.
Coys and Predators UK says, sorry, just got receiving a phone call there. Coys and Predator says, my air source heat pump uses 2 pence per hour to run an indoor predator pond and 30 pence when the fan is running. So 30 pence an hour or 2 pence per hour to run his indoor predator. But I believe, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe that air source heat pumps only work down to a certain temperature and then start burning off more kilowatts because they have to generate the heat themselves because they can't take the heat from the ambient air temperature outside.
Yeah.
I know that is on some of them, maybe not on them all.
Well, there's a big difference in 30 quid price and a 330 quid price. That's what I'm looking at.
Well, yeah, I think by the time you've run it for 12 months, you would have paid your difference in price with your electricity. So
Well,
I would say the saving up and purchasing the more expensive would be the better on your pocket in the long run.
Valid point, Gaz. Valid point. There you go. Are we the only ones here?
We are at present, mate. Yeah, everybody else is not in attendance or they've forgot to submit their evening off slip. What's the Facebook group called? Well, I think I just saw that dropped in there. Then I think somebody just posted a link. It's Gaz's Pond Community, mate. So, and the link is there, posted by Bubble and Fins. Video Guru is also quite easy. It must be used. It must be used. What? You lost me there, Dave. What did I miss there? Video Guru is also quite easy. It must be. I use it. Well, I think you would find, Dave, that CapCut is even easier. And being a popular one, CapCut, you will find way more information on it, mate, out there for how-to videos to do it, which a lot of us all watch YouTube every week in, week out. And we all watch it just literally so that we can see how things are done and see how people's fish and ponds are doing, but never ever think to search for anything else when we're looking for information on that kind of thing. So
you know the software I use, it's called Video Magics.
Video Magic.
Magic's Video Pro, Magix, Magix. And it's not a bad bit of, I mean, admittedly, you have to pay for it. I think when I paid for it, the 23 version or 22, might even been 20 version, was about 109 quid.
Gee, yeah, why would you pay for something you can get for free?
But it's all yours. You don't have to pay for updates or anything. Once you own it, you own it.
Well, that's what I mean. There's so many out there for free that you don't have to pay for updates regardless. They update 2 and 3 times a month for nothing.
Yeah, the reason why I got it is basically because it's so easy to put because it's got a massive library of templates you can use, all copyright free, with the music and everything. So you just use them. So it's not that bad. Yeah,
I guarantee you, and I'll put my life on it. The minute you're monetized, any of those videos that you say are copyright free, or those music samples that you say are copyright free, you will get struck with a copyright.
I'll find out. I'm nowhere near monetized yet. But
when you get there, I mean, I used a fair few bits and bats, all which were supposed to be copyright free music. And when I monetized my channel, I ended up with about 76 that I had to go back and remove all the music from, edit it out and put something else in. There is very few music that is royalty free, unless you pay for the royalties, and then you can use it regardless. But yeah, it's one of those ones that tends to catch you out, especially when you go back and you have to do it and re-edit it all again, because it's a real.
There's a few websites out there that provide you with royalty-free music, aren't they? Purple Planet, I think that's one of them.
Like I said, until such time as you put it on a platform like YouTube, where they put through advertisement and you start to make money from it, and the minute that you start to make money from it, they can strike up a royalty whenever they want.
Well, that's not good, because 90% of my videos are using Purple Planet music.
Well, they might find out that they're all right, but there are a lot that don't, and there's a lot of people that have to go back. I mean, just ask Vince, for example; he'll tell you.
Yeah. Hey, how is Vince? Anybody? I'm not seeing.
I think, to be honest, mate, I think he's burying his head in his pond build to try distract from obviously what's going on. I've spoken with him briefly, and we've had a little bit of a natter in a chat, and fingers crossed both him and his family are well, as best as they can be in this time.
To be honest with you, that's my way of getting rid of stuff out of my head. That's putting me head into something else and full whack on that. So I don't blame him.
No. Thing is, though, mate, the way to deal with anything like that, and the way to deal with all like that is to go through the process and process it. Burying your head in the sand or burying your head in work, it's still there to process when you come out the other side. So it's something that you have to do, something you've got to go through. There's a couple that's going in there saying in there now. Hang about, let me make sure I get this right. Some of the cheaper air source heat pumps will only work down to 5 degrees from Paul Hutchins. So pretty useless come winter.
Oh yeah, I've just read that. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Excuse me. The Dream air source heat pump will work efficiently down to -15, which is what you want. That's pretty damn cold, isn't it? Rocket Boy says, I saw Vince yesterday. He is fine. Good man. He has been putting out a bit of content. He is still doing it. He is still keeping himself busy and keeping himself active. So hopefully, fingers crossed. There's no easy way to process through it, is there? It's one of them things, isn't it? It takes what it takes. And we all of us get there and make our own way through as we do and as we should.
You know, I'm sitting there with my feet up on the sofa and I'm using my flipping jumper as an ashtray. I'm going to get me an ashtray.
All right, you'll do that. Is everyone there? What we got? Is everyone using inverter air source heat pumps? And if so, what is the difference? Good evening, mate. How you doing, Lee?
I'm well, you?
I'm good. You mean you're still at work, aren't you? You're still there. I was going to say you've been busy at work, but you're still there. I recognise the office.
Yeah.
Good week.
I've had a couple of days off, mate. So first day back for a while. So
hence that's why you're probably working late.
Yeah.
Bit of catch up to be done.
Yeah, a lot of catch up, to be fair. Getting ready for the Nissan shipment that's coming in on the 8th of November. So
8th of next month. Well, that's not so far away, then, is it?
No.
Sweet. Happy days. Up north, Koi Pond said inverters have a soft start, Colin, and regulate up and down based on demand. What's the types that they're putting on new houses, Si? Because you do a bit of plumbing, mate, and they're all being switched out, aren't they now? They're not actually fitting gas boilers to new builds anymore. A lot of new build properties will literally be having air source heat pumps fitted. So I don't know what the type they are, but they're bloody massive.
I'll see an advert for them today, mate.
The air source heats.
Yeah.
Oh, Pool Ponds UK says, question for Crafter, is the Grow and Show got limited space, or has the Grow and Show got limited space?
No, 150 pieces up for grabs. I've got more than 150, but you always have a percentage kept back for security, just in case the inevitable happens. So there'll be 150, £95 Odicam Tozai, loads of really nice fish, actually. You can buy them online. I prefer people buy them online. To the end of November, I'm offering an early bird discount. I think I'll put 20% on. So it'll only be like 80 quid for a Tozai from Odicam. So that in itself, as always, I'll try and look after everyone. And that is a really, really good price for what I'm getting, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. But yeah, have a look on the website. Now you can buy as many as you want.
There we go. Sweet. And not all 100, because that makes you the winner.
Not 150 of them. If you want to, I don't mind, because I've got other fish I can do. But I thought the Odicam ones offer a very good, diverse range of Go Sankey. So rather than it just being Sankey or Showa or Kahaku, just individual, got the ability. They've got in the mix that I bought is Kahaku, Sankey, Showa, and then Ginring, Kahaku, Showa, and Sankey. And I've seen some Tancho in there, some Ginrin Tancho, and also some Ginrin Beko as well. So
nice.
Hell of a mixture, which just makes it a little bit more enjoyable, I think. So, and we're going to do it as early as I can possibly get it off, which is the weekend after Easter weekend. That's when the temperatures of ponds water should be good, and it's at the beginning of the season, so you know,
Sweet.
well worth an effort.
Right then, let's have a quick look. We've got a couple more going in there. Crafty, you sexy bar steward from our jigs, with a nice little cheeky thumbs up and a wink.
Lovely jubbly.
Susan says, "Oh, Susan Schooner. Oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm not pronouncing that last name because we did this wrong last week.
Schooner.
That's what we thought, but we were wrong. It was pronounced some other way. I have a retrofit bottom drain. I have my pond covered with a clear plastic styrofoam on. With clear plastic and styrofoam on top of that, heated to 18 degrees. Do I need to worry about gassing off?" Now, this is the bit that I was saying. Now, if you've got rotting vegetation in a pond, a natural pond, let's say, for example, a natural pond needs to gas off. That's why when you see underneath a frozen pond or whatever, you see these bubbles of ice, and that's natural gases which have rose to the surface underneath the ice. And that's caused by breaking down vegetation. So, unless you've got any breaking down vegetation in your pond, no, you don't need to worry about gassing off because there's no gases to gas off, in my opinion. Would I be right in saying that?
It's always good to gas off over winter, mate.
What we gassing off?
Just allowing the air to come through, mate, to get out. You've got to allow air to escape, mate, so all the crap that evaporates don't drip back into your pond. So you've got to let it go.
What go?
You've got to let your pond gas. It's a known fact.
But what gas? That's my point. Methane is the gas that is produced by rotting vegetation. If we don't have rotting vegetation, what do we have?
We've never got methane in that. You should never have methane in your ponds.
No, but that is a natural gas that comes from rotting vegetation.
Yeah.
And so if we've got
if you're doing filter cleans, etc., you're putting new water into your pond, you need to allow it to gas.
New water.
So we're talking about chloramines to gas off.
Yeah, you've got to let it gas. It's always good. You don't have to have loads. You don't have to have loads of big holes. Just small amount, just enough gap to let all the shit go out.
All this shit go out.
Best thing to do. You don't.
Carbon dioxide.
Yeah, I took the words, but everything needs to go, mate.
So we need to allow ammonia and nitrogen.
Correct.
There we go.
Everything.
That's at least. So at least no. But the biggest main reason for gassing off is to allow fresh circulation throughout your pond again. Then. So what happens if your pond freezes over and it don't gas off?
Well, at that point, mate, the fish aren't doing anything anyway, but should never really allow your pond to freeze over.
But every pond and river and stream that's out there,
yeah, but they've got their own systems, haven't they? That works a hell of a lot better than our ponds. So they've got the ability to deal with what goes on. In your small body of water, you haven't got that ability.
Let's see what we can find out.
There's a question. Would you switch off your air pump or leave it on over winter?
I'll leave mine on.
Yeah. So in a winter, a pond needs to release harmful gases like methane and hydrogen sulfide that can build up from decomposing organic matter. To prevent this, you can keep an aerated area on a surface of your pond. Removing leaves, twigs and debris from the pond surface at the bottom of your pond with a vacuum or a fine net can prevent this from having dead foliage and algae buildup. So
most of us don't have any, like most koi ponds, a concrete pond that doesn't have that doesn't have vegetation in it. It's a good square concrete pond without any plant life whatsoever.
Exactly, and that's my point. That's what my point I was trying to make. So in the conventional koi pond, there is nothing to gas off.
There is gas. There is, mate. You do need to. It's not good to allow condensated water to fall back into your pond, mate. You've got to allow
condensated water, but we don't get condensated water from a pond surface when it's frozen over. It literally is water touching the bottom of the ice.
You'll still get it because you'll trap the warmth you've got, mate. It'll still happen naturally. I promise you, mate. When we lift our covers outside here.
Oh yeah, that's a covered pond.
That's what I'm saying. You're on about covers, though, right?
No, I'm on about a frozen pond.
But yeah, chances of getting a frozen pond if you're covered are reduced, aren't they?
Yeah, but the question that I was saying that's what I was meaning. When it's if you leave your pond to be natural, i.e., like mine froze over last year. It froze over for 6. Good evening, Rick. You good, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Straight in and what ready?
Nice fish this week.
You what, sir?
You've had some nice fish this week, dude.
Good. I have.
You have.
You have.
You have.
Some lovely fish. You've had some lovely fish.
Fair enough.
Colin saying that you won't get a frozen pond with air running. Last year, mate, my pond froze solid. Not solid. I'm good. 1.5 inch on top.
It was quite extreme. It was an extreme winter for most.
It was, mate. But that's my point. If you've got a natural environment with a natural environment and it freezes over, we've got all that vegetation and everything that's doing what it needs to do.
100%, yeah.
And that will sort out pretty much most of what you're getting oxygen from all the plants that's in there, etc., etc., etc. But within a pond environment like ours, with a liner, with no covers, no filtration, no pond covers over to stop it from freezing, and the pond freezes over, what's to gas off if you've got no plants or vegetation in the pond?
What's the gas off?
Yeah,
the waste
that
of
was
fish waste. Yeah,
yeah, the toxic build-up of carbon dioxide and fish waste.
I would have thought fish waste would produce methane in any case.
Methane and hydrogen sulfide. Yeah, would that be right?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you still.
But we're not going to have the same effects as what we would have in a pond like, let's say, your lakes, for example. You don't go out there and leave aeration in those lakes and put in a bucket and pull it out every day for pond to gas off when they freeze solid.
No, but we're trying to achieve a different. In a big lake, you're trying to keep the water at the bottom at 4 degrees, so you don't want to mix up the water layers. So you get the thermocline. So the surface is frozen, but the bottom's not. If you start mixing up the water, then you'll super chill the water.
Yeah,
that's our biggest problem with the koi outside in the ponds is obviously turning the water over when it's cold, and you'll drop that water right down to 0 or below 0. Keep it moving. At which point your fish are slush puppies.
Yeah, because you just chill it again and chill it again to the point where it starts getting to the same temperature as outside, pretty much.
Yeah, you can drop it. You can drop a pond to almost basically below freezing and keep it liquid. That's the dynamics of water, isn't it? Water can only freeze. Yeah, it's no good for you. But that's what happens if you've got a bottom drain and a pump moving and a shower and a water fill and aeration. You can drop your pond to -2 and it'll still be bloody liquid.
Yeah,
the fish is screwed. That's the end. That's the end of your fish, isn't it? But
yeah, that's good night Vienna job.
Yeah, I mean, water's magic, isn't it? It teaches you. Naturally, it does what it does, and the fish can survive. If it freezes and it's liquid at the bottom, they can basically live, unless there's too many fish or someone else goes wrong. But yeah, it's a tricky one. If you're living in northern England or Scotland, we have a really cold winter, and you're trying to keep the pond ticking over. It's a fine line, isn't it, between moving the water and killing the fish.
Yeah, because like the other year when we had that real, last year, but last year wasn't too bad. But was it the year before or last year when even down south we were getting loads of places were all freezing up. Everybody was switching off the systems. Everybody was switching off their. Everybody was switching off like the filters and everything because they were literally freezing up solid cracking pipes and all sorts of stuff. It's always, I was always under the impression in a pond without any form of vegetation in it, there was next to nothing for in there for it to even gas off because there's no vegetation because we filter it all out. There is no shit, there is no ammonia, there is no crap because they're barely producing any because they just sat there on bottom as much as what they would do through normal period.
I still graze though, don't they? And I don't just park constantly.
I don't know. Mine pretty much did last year, but I know that's a lot colder where I've had mine pond than what you guys would keep your ponds and what you probably have down by you. You're probably keeping it about 6 to 8 degrees, whereas mine dropped down to 2 degrees last winter. My fish didn't move from 1 week to the next. They literally just parked up and stayed there. Same positions.
They literally do that, so they'll stop metabolizing, so they'll stop feeding, they stop moving, they stop. So they basically use very little, they produce very little, but it depends.
There'd still be an element of some.
It's the context of how many fish you got and how much water volume. In a natural lake, you might have 100 carp in 100 acres or whatever, or in your koi pond, if you've got a heavily stocked pond and you're going through a winter, then you could have a huge amount of fish. Even if they're producing a tiny amount, that will still build up. But to be honest, with koi, that cold is probably a bigger problem than the waste they produce. If you're taking
that's what I thought last year when it did. I was like, this is not good. Frozen solid, the fish were just packed up instead. But saying that, they all came through with no problem. But no, well, they would probably have been a lot more comfortable and a lot more happier in warmer water, obviously. But they all came through unscathed. There were no issues with any of them.
But that's kind of surviving and not thriving, isn't it? Which is part of the balance. And we found over the years you can have certain varieties will survive much better than others. Shearet series is a prime example. Yeah, Shearet series line will not tolerate cold water. And when I say cold, 3 degrees cold. They just die. Literally.
That's Shearet series, did you say?
Shearet series, yeah. They're one of the worst we've ever had for it. You start getting proper cold temperatures and they will just lay down, shut down. And you'll have ghosties and chagui and whatever swimming around, still looking at you for food.
Yeah.
And they'll literally...
I've seen the difference in that. There are certain fish that are packed up on an evening when it's coming colder on a night, and yet the chag, the yamabukis are still swimming around, cruising about, looking for food. I'm saying looking for food. They haven't been getting on because I've just thought if some of them are packed up, then none of you are getting none. I'm not feeding them at all. I've just left them be. When we've had the warmer temperatures through the day, they've had a little bit of an offering, maybe, small little handful for anything that's come up and had a little bit, but that's it. They've pretty much gone to the point of, I'm at 10 degrees now, and that's it. That's probably where they'll just stop at that. Unless it goes above 10 degrees for a day or two and it warms up a little bit, then they've had a bit. But they've only had sporadic feeding every now and again for at least the last 2 weeks here. For me, that's what I've been doing already. Scott already got that kind of cold already.
Winter starts early with you, doesn't it?
It's cold here, mate. Yorkshire's cold. I mean, one of the highest points in I am the second highest point in Huddersfield. So it's that's Rob Foxy has just put in most treatments are not recommended under 10 degrees C. 10 degrees C is what it states on used into temperatures. And I think is the reason behind that because it's not as successful below temperatures below that or more
different treatments are different. So some treatments like flibenzidone and stuff with flukes, they won't absorb enough of the treatment at those temperatures.
So you're just pretty much wasting it at that point.
Just doesn't work at all. A lot of the fluke treatments like that. So yeah, some treatments just what you're trying to treat isn't its metabolism isn't fast enough to take the treatment on in the period of time it's there. So it doesn't work. Period.
Full stop. Job done. You're better off waiting until warmer temps and then treating. Will they get less irritable in colder temperatures though for the fish? Is it more? What do you do if you've got parasites and you've flagged an issue and you are below 10? What do you do if your fish need that treatment? You got to warm the water up.
It's an age-old problem, isn't it?
Or do you just sit there and wait and hope that they can make it through to the warmer period again?
Depends how bad it is and what the problem is. But yeah, in reality, if you've got a massive issue that's gone into a cold period and you haven't dealt with it, you probably need to either bring the temperature up or bring the fish into an environment that's easier to bring the temperature up to treat them, into a quarantine tank or a temporary tank where you can bring it up, treat them, and then bring it back down again or whatever. But it's all cost involved, isn't it? It is one of those tricky ones because flukes will still do damage below 10 degrees. If you've got 6 months, you've got 6 months of below 10 degrees, those flukes will still multiply and slowly kill the fish.
Yeah, they're still going to be doing what they wanted to do, still going to be feeding and thriving.
At a much slower pace, but they will still do it. So, yeah, there isn't an easy answer, is there?
Heat,
No, well,
heat is the answer to any koi pond.
Put your fish in boxes and fly them somewhere warm for the summer.
Heat is the answer.
but I know you say that, mate. But the amount of people that heat the pond is like 10% of koi keepers.
I know that, mate, but it don't change the fact that heat is the answer.
Yeah, it's not the be all and end all, because if you can't heat to the right point and you can't afford to heat, there's lots of variance to it. At the end of the day, you've got someone like, say, Gaz is sat on top of a hill in cold old Yorkshire with nothing on his pond to make the pond warmer. His pond's going to be
Cold,
and sometimes that's going to be a benefit. So any health problems and doing nothing.
Correct.
So
No,
everything's going really slowly. It's a time machine.
I agree with you, but stable water in a nice 18 degrees, 12 degrees, you're able to deal with so much problem and your fish are more comfortable. The reality is that we haven't all got the ability to heat our ponds. I totally agree and appreciate that. But it still means, the answer still is, if we can heat the water up and get that to where it needs to be, we can treat them and the fish will be happier. Koi carp don't like cold. Simple fact. They
don't. But you ever seen the film Hot Tub Time Machine? Gaz has got cold tub time machine. His fish are going to last forever, mate.
Well, when you look at supposedly the Japanese emperor's fish that lived to 240 years, how we're living in a damn cold environment.
And they will live for you. That's the point. Though. They will live, their longevity.
The average, if you read the write-up on it, it says the average temperature of that water was 9 degrees.
But that was a spring water in the mountains.
That's fucking freezing. I won't fancy sitting in that for 240 years, that is for sure. But
have you ever seen pictures of that supposed fish?
That fish was fucking ugly as sin.
About 16 inches long and like a plain orange thing or whatever.
Yeah, beautiful.
Longevity is not the be end and end all, is it?
It's not. I mean, it's a great fable, isn't it? 240 years for a fish.
There was tongue in cheek there, mate. There was tongue in cheek.
But you're right in what you say, mate. The problem that people have is treating in a cold. Now, generally, you don't tend to see much until you start to come out of the spring because so many people ignore their ponds over the winter period. First things we've got to do is check your ponds regularly, irrespective of what the temperature is of your water. Because if so much can happen, especially in the cold. And I see people last year. Was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year. No, it was a year before. It was a year before when we had that harsh one, where certain people had allowed their ponds to freeze over. They had done nothing about it. The water was too shallow. They got super cold, and a lot of their fish were laying on the side. They were shutting down, yes, but they got them out thinking they was dead. when actually if they'd have just warmed some water up and allowed them the chance they was going to defrost and come back to life.
Well,
So
I've seen it. I've seen it
here's a
beyond.
question, because you seem to be the lads that know.
Cool.
What's the recommended depth for a pond then, so that it doesn't affect the fish that are in not hibernation, whatever it is called, when they when it gets really cold and it freezes over? What's the ideal depth?
4 foot. Anything over 4 foot.
Anything over 4 foot. Right?
Yeah, because pond. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Rick, but water temperature at that level will not, unless you change it with water flow, it won't fall below 4 degrees. Is that correct, Rick?
Depends where you are, but yeah, basically, yeah, you get the thermocline. So when it freezes, it insulates itself, and water's densest at 4 degrees, so it will sink. So you'll get ice, and then basically water 4 degrees at its densest, so the bottom will always be 4. But obviously, if you're moving that water around, you're mixing it up. So anything over 4 in our country, 4 foot's fine. But if you live in Scandinavia, 4 foot could be solid, couldn't it? It's cold enough. But yeah, so water's weird. So over 4 degrees, the water begins to rise again, so it becomes less dense, which is why you have either the coldest water on the top or the warmest water on the top, depending where you are. But the bottom is kind of magic. It will always sit at 4 degrees. But yeah, I went to a pond a few years back. A guy brought some fish from us, and it was Baltic. And I was going to see Gary at Gatwick, pick up some fish. And it was very close to Gary. And the guy had said, I don't know what's happened to my fish. I'll put them in my pond. And they're all just lead on the bottom. And I'm like, okay. And they've been quarantined in a summer house in a heated pond. And then I've gone to this pond, and it was an outside pond, very shallow, round pond, big water blaze, flowing like a thing. And these fish were all just sparked. I've never seen it like it. And I like, because they're all dead. And I'm like, well, they all look dead. They are literally dead. Yeah. So I caught some up, bagged them, and I'm like, they've all just died. Something weird's gone on there. Put them in the van, went up to see Gary, picked up some fish, having a chat. I said, I've just been to collect some dead fish. This guy's had. He's quarantined them. Everything's fine. He's put them in his pond. And they were all just dead. And I go on to show him the fish, and they're all swimming around in the bag in my van. And he's like, well, they ain't dead, are they? And I'm like, they've warmed up in the van, and they've literally got super chilled. It was such a cold night. They have literally shut down and become inanimate at whatever 0 degrees. Yeah, I've bagged them, put them in the van, and they've come back to life. Absolutely fine. So I said to the guy, I took them back to the farm. I put them. He had the fish back. They were absolutely fine. But had they stayed in that water for more than a few days, that would have been the end.
They would have completely shut down eventually.
But he had this massive, like, meter-long stainless steel, like, blade thing in this pond, and it was just, and it was so cold. It's like, oh my god. But
see, that's the thing you got to think of is how you move your water. If you're taking water off your skimmer and putting that through your filter and returning it to a low point in your pond, you're pretty much taking away that ability to that sustainable area in the bottom of your pond. You're taking it away.
I thought the actual thermoclimate changes in a pond had got to something like 14 meters before it actually become effective.
No. If you could go in one of our ponds, you'll feel it.
It says here between 1 and 20 meters on the internet.
So I am.
Well, they do saying that at 1 meters water is warmer. At 20 meters below, the thermoclimate starts and generates more rising in temperatures. The further down you go to a certain point, and then it becomes colder again.
You're talking about massive bodies of water in the ocean, currents and stuff. In any given body of water, even a bucket. Even a bucket, why have you got ice on top and not at the bottom?
Last year, Gaz, I had two.
It's a solid bucket.
I had two thermometers running in my pond. I had one at the top and one right down on the base, just to measure the difference in the temperatures.
And you're about 3 degrees higher.
3 degrees, yeah.
So if you've got a surface temperature of, let's say, 3 degrees, you'd 6 degrees at bottom.
Yeah.
So that's the bit where
that won't work. It doesn't work that way around.
In the colder, it was 3 degrees difference. It was really cold on top, but 3 degrees right down.
3 degrees down at the bottom. So like when you've got, like you said, you got your bottom drains pulling water out, you need to really be returning it back to that same area, don't you? So dropping returns below water level, not cascading in from top, which will super chill it and freeze it and cool it down again. Same kind of thing.
Which is part of the reason when people are building ponds, my advice on pond builds is that every return should have a stop tap. So that if you've got returns at different levels, you've got the ability to turn off where you're returning the water.
Or technically you'd ideally not use your bottom drain.
Or that.
You could use a skimmer and return on the set or whatever, but
so you could take water from the surface and return it back at the surface, not pouring it back so it cascades down in and through.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think thermocline could be the wrong word. So thermocline does is stratificate. You get different temperatures. We're talking about the cold spell where water is densest at 4 degrees.
Yeah.
So through the winter, technically, it will always try and be 4 degrees at the bottom and frozen on top or whatever. I call it a thermocline because it's a different temperature, but it could be, you get stratification. There's lots of different words for different things, but the reality is you do not want to be mixing your pond up proper. I think it's one of the only liquids or whatever that does what water does. Just nothing else does it.
Just answer Lee Taylor's question, as we've had somebody in bold capitals letter say, can you answer Lee Taylor's question? Evening all, is there any long-term issue using sodium thiosulfate to dechlorinate the water when doing water changes?
No. Not if it's only use it for water changes, it shouldn't be a problem.
As long as you put it in first before you put the water in, it'll be fine.
There you go.
Or to the water that you're adding to the pond, either way.
What we have to do, Eric, unfortunately, is while we're talking about a topic, we have to process through that topic before we can just go. Just 1 second, guys. Just let me stop you right there and we'll go back to it and then go answer a question. So we're going to get him, mate. It was there in bold letters for me today. So, yeah. Well, there you go. I've never actually used that stuff, but I'm guessing it's the same stuff that dechlorinator is made from, I would imagine, isn't it?
It's one of those things you might find that it can affect the salt content, like sodium bicarb, whatever, and it's sodium and it's sodium chloride.
You might have to,
you could get a chemist in to discuss that, but no, I think you'd have to be using a lot.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Seska says my pond is at 22 degrees.
22.
Deep pocket.
Seska's moved to the Middle East. She's gone to somewhere warm.
Dave's question: has anyone used the koi whatever it's called, koi LSA or whatever it is, the 7-in-1 water meter, and what is free chlorine? And I think somebody else has already banged it in there. I think it was Marek that's already answered him with a question in there. Soft. Alan says, soft Yorkshire koi keepers, it's not called in Yorkshire. I don't believe it's called, Alan. My fish are going to have to learn to be double hard bathers because sure as shit, they ain't ever getting no form of heating putting on that pond. Never.
Alan runs heat on his mud ponds. He's got thermal springs tapped into him, hasn't he?
It is cold, but it's not that cold. It's even last year when it were down to -4. I was still working in just a t-shirt and a jumper. So
in a house.
We don't really experience bad cold conditions, do we, over here in the UK? Not like what they do in, let's say, for example, we've got what's his name? Crap. Aaron's just posted it.
Oh, colossal koi! Yeah, you get some proper temperatures, mate.
Yeah, I mean, and their ponds and their lakes, they freeze like two foot thick. Like Like the gentleman, what's he called? Aaron, what was his name? Forgotten his name. Lives in Canada. Down to minus 38.
Christ.
And yet he's got 2 foot of frozen solid ice on his pond, and all his fish make it completely through.
Yeah, because they're in his basement in the warm tanks.
They're not. They're outside his pond. That's why he took his pond down another 2 extra foot this year, because last year it froze really deep, and they were a bit concerned about him. You muted yourself.
Gone silent. So who's extra, mate? I don't. Hello.
Nobody.
Well, you are somebody. You're on the show. I thought it
I
was
just followed the link and God let me in, which was really good. But there you go.
I thought Daz had aged. You've been working hard.
Oh, Daz is having night off, mate. There we go. Dave, the free chlorines is not the test for koi keepers need. It's total chlorines we need. So cat toilet, that's the one. Cat toilet chlorine test is no good for us. Fine in a swimming pool or a spa stroke hot tub. There you go. Spend less on treatments and gadgets, buy an air source heat pump.
Troubles with air source heat pumps that don't work when it's cold.
That's what I said at the beginning, but apparently most of them do, but others, cheaper ones, don't. They only go down to like 4 or 5 degrees, don't they?
It depends on the air going through them. Yeah, there's a massive. The majority of them, so they're better, and depends what gas they use, the inverter type. There's so much, but the general cheaper air source heat pumps give you 7 to 1. They work at their ambient best at say 15, 20 degrees, and they'll give you 7 to 1 at that temperature. But if you start putting 2 degree air, 0, -2, they ain't doing jack shit for you. You're using a kilowatt just to get nothing. So you've got to use the right air source heat pump for the right temperature going through it, which is why ours are drawing air from the warm tunnels and putting it outside. So we're getting double bubble.
Yeah,
We're drawing 15 degree air. You know, if it's frozen outside, we're still getting 15 degree air temperature going through the heat pump. So the heat pump's still working.
Right. So that's the way that if you were going to do it, you would be drawing the air out of the warmer environment like your polytunnel.
Yeah. So its efficiency is still
cold
really
air
high.
up and outside.
Yeah.
And then sourcing, so keeping it at an ambient 15 degrees throughout your polytunnels.
Yeah, because it hasn't worked so hard to heat your water, mate, has it?
Yeah.
2 degrees rather than 15.
So if it drops down to like 2 and 3 degrees, they don't do anything. They don't work full stop.
You get different sorts, but the majority of them, they're just they work. They take the heat from the air, obviously, and convert that. That's what they do. So if you're putting 2 degree air through them, they got nothing to work with, have they? How they don't.
So how does well, I'm guessing so. But there are different models that do work differently to that.
Yeah, so it's a type of gas. So they compress the gas into a liquid, and when it changes back to a gas, it obviously generates heat. So that's how it's like a fridge, but in reverse. So they're using those gases pumped, compressed. That's how it works. But obviously, you need the air going across it to generate to make it work, and that's where it all gets. They have a certain window where they're, you get some that are 9 to 1, 12 to 1. They're really efficient, but in a narrow window of temperature of air going through them. Once you start messing with that, the efficiency drops on its ass.
See, I was wondering now, because I've been working on a lot of Jones Homes houses, and now they're not fitting central heating systems anymore. And they've got these, and I mean, they are huge, man. They're that width, and they're probably about 6 foot in length, and maybe 1.2 meters high. Back at house, massive, great big air source heat pump, and that's for powering all the heating in the house.
Yeah, and they will. They're fit if you've got one that's got the right gas in it to work at the right temperature window, and you've got
imagine
they work. They'll draw, but they'll still work more efficiently at different temperatures, and you get that. So that when they're right, they're amazing, and obviously they work. They use them in Scandinavia and stuff, so you can get them to work at lower temperatures. It's not a problem, is it? But obviously the whole thing freezes up all the time because obviously that's that. You can't gain something without losing something. So if you're trying to convert, you compress the gas into a liquid, put it through the system, that generates heat and cold. So you've got split that away from each other.
Sharp is in down.
And yeah, it's a technology that's amazing when it's in the right thing for the right place. You know, air conditioning, air cooling, they all work brilliantly at the right time. How many times is your freezer packed up out in the shed because it's too cold? Freezer stopped working.
That's a good question.
Freezer can't work when it's already cold outside. The whole thing just doesn't work anymore. So so an air source heat pump, most of the ones you buy are brilliant for heating your pond in the summer, not so good for heating your pond in the winter.
Does having salt in your water help during colder months?
To stop it from freezing, but it won't necessarily stop the temperature from going down.
It won't stop the temperature going down, but your fish sometimes would be happier with salt in the water, depending on age of the fish, what's going on with the pond. But again, salty water freezes. You might find your pond, if you've got salt in it, doesn't freeze, but that's only because the salt water's got a colder freezing temperature.
Yeah, a colder freezing. Yeah,
got into a science lesson here, isn't it?
All this started with just about gassing off.
I think salt water freezes at -4. Maybe.
Claude says, Gaz, did you win Salesman of the Season at Perfect Aquatics last Saturday? No, mate, I didn't. No.
Oh no.
No, there were no awards being handed out, and people kept stealing my thunder. When I set people up for a sale and walked away to give them 5 minutes and say, I'll leave you to have a think about it.
Someone else bagged the sale.
Someone bagged the sale. But the fact was that between us, which is a team effort, the client went away with the fish that they wanted, which is what it's about.
What did you learn? Don't
walk away from a sale when Crafty's there.
I learned not to talk to people that waste your time.
No.
No, I'm only messing.
No. If you
I learned, honestly, mate, what I learned at the end was you can't stay continuously with one person. So you're going to spread yourself around everybody. And if somebody else went back to help that individual, then we still achieve what we're out and set out to do, which is to make the sale and the customer go away with what they required. Whatever that might have been.
The big Goshki went today.
Did it go? Same bloke or somebody else?
Somebody else.
Because there were a couple who came and looked at it, weren't there? There were two that were interested in it.
Yeah. What about people's knowledge?
What about people's knowledge? It's an open-ended question.
Experienced lots of different people, didn't you?
I did experience lots of different people. Some people that literally just came in for a natter and a chat just to have and learn and wanted to know a few bits and bats about koi. Others that were interested in just getting a few goldfish and wanted to know which was the most hardiest and easiest that they can just take care of, or simply just chuck in somewhere and see what they do. And then there were others that literally wanted to know the ins and outs of breeder. There's all sorts of elements, from people that are knowing exactly what they're looking for and thought they were coming down to grab an absolute bargain and walk out with a fish for 100 quid that should have been 1,500. And then there are others out there that come in thinking, I can get some information, I can get some treatments, the right procedures, what we need to do. So, you get a whole broad spectrum of questions. It's not just literally about selling fish, mate, is it? You're not just selling fish. When you were in that environment at the show, it was literally people coming to you saying, I want to have a look at that fish. I want to have a look at that fish. I want to have a look at that fish. And all you had to do was ball them up. If they were interested and they liked it, they took it. Simple. When he was in the shop, it's totally different, man. Totally different. Because you got somebody that walk up and ask you about treatments that you need for X, Y, and Z. What's the best stuff to use? Other people that literally... For example, there was one lady that got more excited about a tiny little 7 cm fish, one of your fish, Rick, in fact, 2 of your fish. She was more excited about that fish than somebody that was looking at one of the absolute belting fish that sat there studying for ages, looking at and ahhing. I mean, I can get why for the price and what you were spending, but if you know what you want and you know what you want, you come to get it. But yeah, that lady walked out with a radiant smile on her face from the simplest of things, mate.
But that's the whole point, isn't it?
She
Yeah,
was
it was-
actually jumping for joy.
She was literally.
She was literally
She
jumping.
was buzzing.
Great fish.
And it was great
that's
to
how it
see.
should be, isn't it? And everyone goes through it at some point, don't you? You see koi, you bite, little fish, big, whatever it is. But my one, we get people that come in and you might spend 20 minutes with them, and then they turn around and go, "Yeah, I was thinking about getting a pond," and you realize they ain't even got a pond.
That's exactly that. That's exactly what I had. I had a couple come in and speak to me and talk to me about it, and then said, "Yeah, I think if we don't make some, we'll come back." Like, what? I'm balling up fish here for you, and you ain't even got a pond. But they were, then again, at the other side, the flip side of it, there was people that were coming along and buying a fish and purchasing a fish, and the kids were like going, "Oh wow, well how big can that grow?" So you show them that little fish, a little Hiyatsura, one of yours, Rick, tiny little small Hiyatsura, and go, this could have the potential in the right pond, right food, right environment to get that big, and show them in the big sales pond and show them what they were like, and they were going, "Wow."
Schneider one that's 70 cm.
There you go.
But you know what I mean? It was nice. It was nice for the kids to be able to see them that big, and then seeing them that big, and getting to see the faces and watch like, wow. But yeah, that one was the most excited lady of the whole day for the two little fish. She was chuffed to bits with what she got and what she took home, and especially she'd seen two, she'd spotted two, and I netted those two fish. She said, "I can't believe you just caught them two," and she was buzzing. Right up to the point where I popped the bag when I overinflated it with oxygen. And he was like that. You should have read it. I filled the bag. I filled the bag. I turned off the air, and Crafty said to me, like, just check it and make sure it's not too firm. Just give it a gentle little bounce. I went, and it went, pow! Scared the crap out of me. Water poured out everywhere. I caught the fish quick before they come out of the bag, kept them in a bit of water, tipped them into another bag and said, "We'll try that again, love."
I've got to go, Gaz and Tony and Rick. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining
us, mate.
I'm early shift in the morning. See you all. Bye.
Good night. But yeah, it literally, I was like, my God, I couldn't have gone anywhere. But fish were fine.
At least it wasn't a $5,000 yellow monkey that just went across the table.
Oh no, that's what I thought to myself when it happened. I thought, thank God they were just two small little fish and not a massive bag.
Sometimes they fail though, mate. They do fail sometimes.
I'd already took the air out though. That's what scared the crap out of me because I really did not expect it to happen at all. Scared the shit out.
We had a student do it with a bag of 100 little ones on a counter, and he put the oxygen on and panicked, gripped it, turned it on more.
Yeah,
rather than and it just literally, and they just went everywhere. And I don't know, what would you do at that point? It's just fish everywhere.
It's not much you can do, mate, other than try.
Well, you just got to act quick and make sure that. I mean,
walk back into it.
Well, they landed these just come out to corner at bag. They're just about to go into towel, and I just managed to scoop water back and bag and tip it over on its side. And I'd already got hold of the other end, so just turned bag over.
You didn't swim fish, mate, did you? So.
They didn't swim, and they didn't end flapping around everywhere like. But it did make me jump. It was funny.
My poor little fish went all that journey just to get across the camp.
Smashed up like that because the woman liked him and he didn't like him as much as her.
She were, oh my God. I don't know if it was her that made me jump more with it. She bellowed out. All right, let's have a quick look. Does anyone else struggle with certain varieties of koi? Struggling so bad with goshka this year. Been a big money trap this year. Rick, what's the one you struggle with the most? What's the type of koi you struggle with the most?
What health-wise or producing the
Health-wise, by the sound of it, I would go with the health because he's struggling with that particular variety.
Well, how is he struggling though? Is he struggling to develop them or keep them alive?
Probably losing them, and not being funny. We can almost split the farm into to 2, you can do almost all varieties are quite strong until you put good Benny in the mix. So you can Goshki, Showa, Sankey, Kahaku, Shiros go in that mix as well, but it's because of the Showa blood, and they are so much more temperamental. So temperature is the biggest key to it. They don't tolerate the temperature swings as well, but it's not just those varieties. It's different bloodlines are slightly different, but yeah, they are weaker. Goshki. The problem is you've only got a few different Goshki breeders. So you're saying I'm struggling with Goshki, but are they Goshki from Kawakami or Kano? Or there's not that many producers of Goshki, and they might have different strengths and weaknesses. But yeah, we do find. We don't find there is a massive difference between the higher quality Gosanki stuff, what they'll tolerate, and what everything else will tolerate. It's you could almost. So we can overwinter. Last year we overwintered without heat because there was basically no Gosanki in it. You can't do that with good quality Gosanki. They will not, especially when they're young. They just won't tolerate it. It's a nightmare. So yeah, I can understand stuff with really good Benny, good Goshki lines, good Sankey. They are generally, and that's where I think people think koi are difficult to keep. Some varieties of koi are more difficult to keep, but they're not. They're more costly to keep. Perhaps is a better word, because if you've got a 24-degree pond running all year round in a polytunnel or greenhouse, they're pretty easy to keep. It's different.
Back we go to the heat.
Unfortunately, that is why does every single Japanese koi house run all their tosai under heat?
Because they bred them so weak, you need it.
It was not so much the bread. That's where they flourish rather than just survive, isn't it? You know, you see the stock densities they've got in those fish houses. They're not weak fish. You can't. No, but temperature is king to be able to treat them, look after them, keep their immunity where it needs to be to deal with stuff. And they get stronger and stronger as you run through that sort of process. So for us, Goshki are up there with some of the worst, yeah. I have to admit they are quite a pain, but I think they are quite inbred to create that sort of floating Benny, that high quality Goshki. There's not a lot of genetics out there to have created that. They are, yeah.
What is it? What is it that, for example, on a Goshki? Because I was looking at mine overnight and I thought, oh my god, man, the Benny come up lovely. And me and Crafty spoke about it when I got it from him. And he was like, this is going to be a bit of a gamble fish, whether or not that Benny will come up as vibrant as what we'd expect it to. And it has. It come up stunningly. It's just starting to darken up a little bit and it's starting to look really good. And now all the Benny on the main front section of it is full of shimmies.
No, that probably isn't shimmies.
Well, what could it be then? Would that be maybe the patterning coming?
Yeah, that could be the
right. So not all of them will have from that particular line will have just
floating Benny, to be fair, is an extremely difficult quality to keep in a fish. Extremely.
So you'll get an overlaying robing pattern, and that might be more of what it is, mate, because it is only.
Yeah,
maybe
so
not.
It's got if it's absolutely smashed with shimmies, I dare say that's a robin just starting to appear.
Because it's funny you should say that because it's very similar. Go over to the where the body would go like a slate grey, sometimes even black. That area is literally in line with where it's coming through on them. So it could be. Well, maybe it's more. Maybe
yeah. But you think of original Goshki always had that. You know, the float is quite a new.
Yeah.
Thing. So you always had the darker, like a Goromo, the darker edges of the scale.
Because they get all like bastard again.
Is it just like on the head or the?
No, it's not. It's not on the head. It's got a real nice, vibrant bit. Literally, it had a piece on its lip, which was quite a small little bit. That's coming to a big piece, which goes right up the nose now, and then the rest of it's coming and around over the top, and it's thickened up, and it's coming right nice, deep, rich Benny. but then this black coming up on it, and I'm like,
good quality fish, Gus. So
I know that's why I was thinking. I was going to ask: can it be down to water that causes shimmies, or is it more about the
shimmies or the robing?
Shimmies or the robing? Yeah, I'm gonna say it's
not.
Well, I've got shimmies on me Benny-Guy, and I thought that none of my other fish with any Benny on them, I've got shimmies. No, other than me Benny-Guy. The Benny-Guy's got about 6 on it, so I put that down to being bloodline.
It'd be genetics, mate.
Yeah, and then when I saw that one on it, I thought, I wonder if it is something to do with the hardness or whatever of water conditions or whatever that might be bringing that forward, bringing it up. Nothing else has got shimmies on it.
But out in Japan, mate, when you go out to Aoki, his goshki are midnight black. Right? You then go down to Hiroi, his goshkis are almost white.
Yeah.
Right? And again, it's different types of water that they keep and bloodlines that creates the image, basically. However, one thing people don't realise is that good goshki are actually not black. Grey.
Yeah, that's what I would say, like a metallic, not metallic, but like a gunmetal grey. That's what it's going like on the top of it, and that's right across from the area where the Benny's got that. What I thought was shimmies, but I haven't took the fish out because if I'm not netting it up to have a look, I'll leave it be and see how it develops and see how it comes on. But the Benny has come up so rich, it's banging. It was good, and I was thinking. I were hoping it would stay just a pure patch of Benny as like a floating style Benny one, but maybe not. I don't know.
Going back to the original question, and let's be interested to see if it's still alive in the spring.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You might have goshki from Kano and Hiroi that tolerate the cold really well, and you might have goshki from Aoki and somewhere else that Kawakami that just don't tolerate the cold very well. And that's the genetics. It depends on what that breed is using as his parent stock. What you get massive differences in hardiness. We used to have massive trouble with Sankeys. Then we started using the Momotaro line, and they're so much stronger, but they're not as refined. There's like the number of pretty fish you get from them is so much less, but they're not bulletproof, but they are so strong. You used to Serazo line stuff, the old school ones. My God, you could get them, and every time you move them, the whole lot just have a react. They're so weak that you can't expect a customer to even keep them alive. Yeah. And that's from the genetics of them. How many times they've been bred closely together to create what you're creating. That's the same for any animal, isn't it? And it comes down to a particular breed that might have purposely or accidentally bred close relatives for 4 generations and created the most beautiful fish in the world. But if you haven't got 24 degrees and perfect environment, those fish are going to cause you problems.
There we go. So it could be dependent upon breeder.
Bloodlines, breeder, individual.
Not breeder, obviously. I mean, as in the bloodline that the breeder's using.
Yeah, the thing is, you think of a breeder, but a big breeder in Japan might be used 30 parent sets a year. One of those parent sets might produce really pretty fish that are really weak to a certain environment.
Yeah, which makes sense.
It is tricky, but yeah, generally the better quality of the fish, the more of a problem they are in terms of the environment you keep them in becomes more and more of an issue.
Richard's asked, Gaz, can I ask you all? I've 10-week-old koi fry indoors at 20 degrees. Should I get the temp to 26? In other words, he's got some 10-week-old koi fry indoors at 20 degrees C. Should I get the temp to 26? Any help, please? Thanks, guys.
To achieve what?
I'm guessing it's so that you can achieve more growth, more size, and all that kind of stuff, which is why most people grow them on in first place. They grow faster, better, between 24 and 26, I believe. Is that right?
They certainly do, but there's no point in doing it if you don't know where to if you do that
So
for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, they should be growing a centimetre a week at that temperature. What are you going to do with them at Christmas or whenever I don't know. You've got to have a plan in your head of if he's got 1,000 fry in his vat and he winds them up to 26 degrees by Christmas, what do you do with those fish? You can't keep that many fish in that environment.
I guess you got to do what you got to do, which is process them through, grade them out, and cull off what you don't want and keep. But a lot of people don't like to do that, do they? And they
We found that one out. So that's, yeah, you need. The way we try and work with people is through the winter, if they're going to grow fish, if they say I've got a 1,000-gallon tank that I can have until April heated, how many fish would be okay in that tank by April at say 14 inches? And if it's 20 fish, then they want to be starting with 20 little fish or whatever to get to that. If they're not going to be able to cull them, kill them, or have nowhere else to put them through the winter because everywhere's cold, you need to be starting with the amount of fish that you can house at the end of the project.
But surely we touched on this crafty over there, didn't we? I mean, surely to God, if you're growing on fry, you shouldn't be growing on. This is probably going to bite me on the ass. In my eyes, you shouldn't be growing on fry if you're not prepared to cull your way through them to pick the best of what you want from them.
You shouldn't, but you do.
You have to.
The thing is, you should. The reality is, if you want to be buying your fry early enough in the year that you can rehome them or put them somewhere where you can run them at 25 degrees and go through the process without being at this stage now having some little fish that you can't cull and sort because you can't see the patterns or the colours.
But imagine if you tried to do that as a business plan, Rick, you would have exhausted your clients with fish to move on that were good enough to make the grade within the first 3 weeks of opening your business.
To a point, yeah, but it's one of those, isn't it? You
let's say, for example, a Japanese breeder or any other breeder, not you.
But no, you got to go through and at the end of the day, there is certain varieties that what you don't keep really is impossible to home, and there's other varieties that actually.
Yeah. I mean, there might be seed grades.
Yeah, but it is one of those. If you're going to pay to heat something through the winter, you really want to be growing fish that warrant that.
The investment, yeah.
Yeah, they don't have to be expensive fish, but they've got to be fish that are going to grow and improve and develop in the right direction to warrant the £1,000 heating cost you're going to give them through the winter or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're going to spend £1,000 rearing them, they've got to be worth more than that by the end of it, haven't they?
Yeah. What is your like pinnacle or average amount of fry that you sell per customer?
I don't. What's
your most popular like fry bags that you send out volume wise?
The most popular fry we do are 6 to 8 week olds, so they're onto artificial food and you can look after in any environment pretty much. And the most popular amount is probably 250 per customer. That's probably
a huge amount of fish.
We sell and have done for more than 30 years, probably about a third of a million fish a year.
Yeah, so they
can't all be alive because there's only X amount of.
Well, you look at 250 fish being put into your pond as fry, no problem, right? Or into your tank, and then they get big quick. They grow quickly, don't they? Let's face it.
This is the big thing, isn't it? They will only grow to the speed of their environment, temperature, food, and everything else. So, the 200 fish that went off on our grow and show thing, honestly, I knew there would be a variation. I knew there'd be differences. I've spoke to one customer that's still got 280, so obviously given way too many. Still got everything, not lost any. Well happy as Larry. They're only about an inch long, chuffed to nuts. And we've got the other end of the spectrum. They've got fish to 35 cm, they've culled them down to their best 5, and they've got fish, proper fit. But that's the difference.
That's where I wanted you to. That's where I wanted you to go, right? So you got 5 fish at 35 cm, right? How much is 250 fry at 4 to 6?
The fry go out. I don't know. The ones we did on the ground show were 50 quid. 50 quid a bag.
Right, and you got 5 35 centimetre fish for 50 quid.
But you haven't, because it's cost them a damn sight more to rear those fish in food and everything else, doesn't it? So the equation doesn't necessarily stack up.
But that in itself, in a comparison, if you was to buy 35 cm fish at this size, all right, maybe not from you, but from me, you're looking anything up to 400 quid, aren't you? 500 quid.
Yeah, but that is the difference between.
So actually, in a comparison, you've got there up to around 2.5 grand's worth of fish, and you've had the pleasure of rearing them up.
Necessarily, but some of the fish are, and it is staggering. Honestly, when I try and show the results or whatever, it is staggering. That not only the size and the pattern, the skin, everything is environmental. The genetics are super important, but the genetics have absolutely no bearing. Those first few months are just environmental, done. Yeah. And I've had my boss Sean's going, well, why didn't we keep all these fish if they look like that? What we've dropped a clanger, and I'm like, because if we kept them all and we put them through our normal gram regime, we wouldn't have these results. Because
it's the fact that you reduced them to 200 and 280 for some, in numbers that they were kept in a better environment, but more and that means if you'd have had 50,000 all in one environment, you wouldn't have got those results, because you would have been
100%. The fish wouldn't have had the water quality, the food, the space, the growing, the temp. All of those things have played out to. I knew X amount. I now know that X and X and X amount. I knew it was going to be a learning curve, and I'm the one that's learned more than anyone, which is amazing, because that wasn't the name of the game, but staggering, just beyond staggering the difference. And obviously that maybe that's just one variety, but I don't think it is. I think it's across the board a little more.
But realistically, if you'd taken 200 fish in fry, the vast majority of people that had gone through that process should not have much more than 10 to 12 fish.
No, realistic. I'd have expected one or two decent fish for each person.
2%.
We'd normally go on much less.
Which shows one thing then, doesn't it? The vast majority of people that was in them partaking within that event don't know what they're looking for to grade out.
No, it's not so much the grain. It's also there's so many. I think the good fish show themselves at a point, but it's getting the environment right at those early stages to get the fish to develop in the way.
You can have a fish with a beautiful body, and that's grown to a decent size, but if it looks like an ugly duckling, it's an ugly duckling, isn't it?
Yeah, but this is the issue. So
that's what I'm meaning.
With kajakus, what we've seen in the past, and this is where it came from, we'd use a particular parent set, and I'll put 10,000 into one pond, and then I think I've got some space now. I'll just chuck a few hundred over there, whatever. The few hundred will flow along, and I'll suddenly go, oh, hang on, there's 10 really good fish out of that. Banging. Yeah. 10% of those fish are banging. I'm expecting 1,000 fish out of that 10,000 to be banging. Go through them. It's like, well, hang on. I haven't got a keeper. I've got 10,000 fish here that I haven't got a keeper in. Those few hundred over there, I've got X amount. So the genetics only play a part to a point. Without the environment, those genetics cannot do their thing at that window when they need to do it. And this is the thing. This is what I said to the boss. At the end of the day, those 200 fish I've got 5 kajakus that are as good as any kajakus we produced this year or last year or any other year, from a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage. If I had shitloads of those fish and we stuck them all in a pond and reared shitloads of them, we wouldn't have given them that window when they needed it to do their thing. to have the fish. And we honestly, and that's exactly what we're seeing. It's literally, how do you to make that on a bigger scale it's almost impossible, isn't it? To suddenly give all of your fry 28 degrees and optimal conditions for 100,000 fish, it doesn't work, does it? Okay, in Japan, if you've got a good summer, the temperatures are good, and they've got all the mud ponds to do it, they can do it. But if we're breeding fish in April and we have a shit spell of weather, and we can't achieve the temperatures we need, we can't achieve the live food we need, and we can't achieve suddenly that 100,000 fish. If I'd only had 10,000, they might have been brilliant. If I've got 100,000 in the same pond, they're a pile of crap, because that competition restricts the window when they need to do a certain thing. And we've seen it with the scale. We're seeing it with so many things, that the environment, and it's not just water quality and not just temperature and not just food. There's so many points to it that that's why it's interesting. That's why it's good. But how do you nail down the exact window? It might be at 4 weeks old, those fish need to grow their absolute fastest at 28 degrees to achieve that pattern of scalation that they can achieve. If you don't do that, you don't get the patterns. You don't get certain things happening with those fish, and then suddenly they're not worth anything. And it's not just us. If Dainichi can use a parent set one year and they're brilliant, and use a parent set the next year and they're shit, it's not.
It's not the fish, is it? There's more to it, like you say.
It's genetics.
For example,
it creates a product.
The yellow monkey has been failed spawnings. What looks like it will be again next year and this year, from the year before, producing some of the most beautiful fish.
When people say failed spawnings, you think the fish don't spawn, but they spawn. The offspring aren't up to the standard. So it's not a failed spawn as in, it didn't work. It's a failed spawn as in the offspring aren't good.
An unsuccessful hatch rate. They've hatched. The fish don't meet the criteria that they've actually put out there, or what they would like to use to represent their brand name.
Or their product name.
Yeah.
Honestly, the first time I saw it was probably nearly 30 years ago, and we put 2 sets. So we bred some Deutsch Matsubas and put them into 2 different ponds. Didn't think nothing of it. And then when we harvested them, one pond come back with just a single line of neat scales, tidy, and the other pond come back with big armor plated scales. And we just presumed somehow we'd perhaps put different fish, and then we're thinking, well, we can't. We only ever had 2 parents. We only had, and they went to different ponds, and we're like, well, they went, and the environment changed those fish, whether it's better or worse, depending on what you're trying to achieve. But from a judging point of view, one pond's come back with a tidy, neat line of scales, and one pond's come back with like Aragoki almost, and it's like we haven't done anything different. We just put them into 2 different ponds.
Which was the bestseller?
To be fair, those ones were actually the neat. No, it wasn't. But back then, it was that really tidy line of scales. Now it'd be the Aragokis all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, mad, isn't it?
Yeah, something, mate. You remember when you said to me, "Why didn't you get involved with it, Craft?" That's why. Fuck all that. I don't know why you fell through it. It's like I ain't got the patience for all that.
But it is mad.
That's the thing. You can when you're partaking and you're having a go yourself, it only takes that one little window to go wrong, and then you can end up being like me, Vic and Daz, where
but that's the thing, isn't it? That is that window, and the more knowledge we get through doing it, the more you can nail down whether the high protein food at too low a temperature is the thing that would destroy them. It's definitely one of the things that affect them. We found this year the dolomites made a massive difference to our fish. The structure of the fish is much better just by adding dolomite to the ponds. That's just a simple thing.
What's dolomite?
It's basically a form of calcium from Italy. It comes from the Dolomite Mountains. It's high in magnesium, high in calcium. Our water's naturally high in calcium but low in magnesium. So I just thought, well, let's try and what's the best way of upping the magnesium? Boom, the fish are better for it. How do you quantify better? I don't know. There's fish.
Lots of different ones.
I don't know, they're better. But it's one of those, and you find that maybe you add one element into your water and a variety will do better and another variety will go to shit. You know, we're quite well known for some varieties, like our Shishu and stuff come out, they're like electric blue. But if we start changing the water we grow our fish in to make it better for showers, maybe our Shishuis will start coming out crap. And that's knowledge, and that's just the more you do something, the more other people do something and trial something. You know, you see a result. I had a chap in today, and he was trying to explain about why our Go Sankey aren't as good as what you get from Japan. And he said, "Well, I don't get it." And I said, "Well, if imagine I went to Saki and he tell me Sako and he tell me, I said, look, this is my best parent set of Sankeys. You can have them. You know, you can have them, take them back, breed them. I wouldn't get the same results that he does. Genetically, it's exactly the same thing, but I won't get the same offspring that he gets because our water's different, temperatures are different.
Environmental conditions. Yeah.
The environmental things, they might be better, they might be worse. But what I'm saying is it won't be the same outcome. So we have to make sure we have to use parents that produce the best outcome for our environment, our conditions. And to be fair, our conditions replicate our customers' conditions mostly, you know, the standard kind of water, as it were. So if they do well for us and we can use them as parents and the offspring are good and our customers do well with them, surely that's got to be a better product than producing something that doesn't do well in someone else in their pond. You know, Matsue, we've used Matsue Kahakus 20 years, and we have so much problems with those parents and their offspring with shimmies. Yet the Akawa lines and some of the other lines we use, we have no issue with them. But Matsue produce some of the best Kahakus on the planet, and they're amazing where they're produced, and they're amazing in the water that they're reared in. But if they come to our water, they ain't great. So we've had to learn that actually, as good as they are, they're not the most suitable bloodlines to use for our water conditions. That's just how it is, isn't it? And obviously, Matsue use lots of different parent sets. So I've only got experience from X amount of parent sets that do a certain thing. So you'll never stop learning. We've got to keep experimenting.
Keep messing around and keep trying different things, aren't you?
But that's the beauty of it. That's why there's so many farms in Japan. And why is one breeder the breeder to go for Asagi? They can all produce amazing Asagi, but actually some breeders are better than others. Is it there just the way they do it, the food, the environment, how they rear them, the parents they use? You go to that breeder if you want Asagi that are going to grow big or not go dark in our water, whatever it is. That will be the breeder you go to. You go to another breeder for another variety. You have experience. Somebody will buy, crafty my customers, and he might buy 100 Kano Goshki, and half of his customers do amazingly well with them, and the other half do shit with them. And you find out some of those customers are heated, or some of those customers have got RO water, some of those customers have got hard water. You've got to find what suits your pond, suits your environment, don't you? Okay, that costs. You can only do it by trial and error. Are the fry results be shown?
Claude, sorry, mate. Yeah, Rick, are the fry results going to be shown to us?
When we've collated. When everyone's in, judged, and we'll try and put a whole thing together, because at the end of the day, it's for everyone.
I sent you mine, didn't I?
It's for everyone, and next year we'll do it again with hopefully Sankeys. That's what I want to do it with, and I think that's going to really put the cat amongst the pigeons, because the results will be bonkers.
Mark's asked, Gaz, never done a growing show, thinking of having a go on crafties. What's involved? Well, basically, mate, I mean, obviously Crafty might want to put a little bit more on this with the sales side of it and what he's actually going to be doing and putting on. But typically, mate, most growing shows involve a group of people gathering in the same environment, same place, and you all pick whichever fish is there and available. For example, last time was the Shurautsuri. The time prior to that was the Kahaku from Momotaro, the Shurautsuri from NND. Basically, you get there, you advance pay for your fish. You arrive there, you get everybody's names put in a hat or whatever, and then Crafty, for example, used a little tombola thing which come out. Your number is allocated to your name is allocated to a number, put in a machine, spun out, the ball comes out, and then you get your pick in whatever random order that it falls out from. So number 24 might go first, followed by number 6, that might go second, and so on and so on and so on until everybody's picked the fish from the fish that are there and available. Now, if you're lucky and you're in within the first top 10, you'll get to select from what would normally be the best fish, depending on how many other people you've got there that know a lot about what they're picking.
What fish you think's the best?
Exactly. That's what I'm literally just going to say. Or you could be picking what you think's the best, and you might have gone first, but yet somebody else might have thought that Suri without any pattern was the best one to be going for, with the underlying Sumi, etc., etc., etc. It's a case of you pick what you like in that selection of fish, and you take that fish away and you give it the best environment that you can, and you grow it on to compete against the others that have done exactly the same to the best of their capability. And at the end of it, everybody's fish are measured, photographed, or a little video. I think we did last time, didn't we, Crafty? Or did we just do still one? Still
do
photo.
both photo and video. It's always
A bit of video and a still photo, and the size of your fish recorded to what it's grown to. And then Alan Tate was the last time on it for the
this time, but Fujio as well.
Yeah. So we've got Fujio from NND and Mr. Tate that will be judging the fish, and not necessarily always be the biggest. Grow and show doesn't necessarily always mean the biggest fish, because you can have a fish that might grow like stink, but all its colour might have dropped off. Fish might look absolutely perfect in its body, but yet lacking in pattern or not developed enough.
We're doing different prizes, guys, haven't we? So
you've done different.
So we'll always do it. So you're going to get a prize for best quality, so the best fish, basically, out of everyone that returns. Best size, i.e., how much you grow your fish from your start size to your end size. What the difference is between the two in a cold pond and a heated pond. Okay, so unless you're Rick and then you try and throw a catamaran's pigeons and put a polytunnel.
Polytunnels are in between.
So you've got your people without a heated pond are against people without a heated pond. People with a heated are against heated. And then it doesn't matter if you're cold or heated, the best fish or quality, deemed quality from Fujio on the NND Shiro, and also Alan Tate, head judge in the UK. But on the one coming up, it will just be via Alan Tate, i.e. the Odacam grow and show that's currently for sale.
All I'd say is it's a good thing to get involved in, especially if there's a group, Telegram, WhatsApp group, because you can meet like-minded people, see how they're doing, and try and beat them.
Yeah. No, it just adds another straw to what it is that we do, isn't it? You know, just to have the ability to come together is always good, but to come together with like-minded people, have a chat, meet people that you never normally met, potentially make new friends, but ultimately come and stare in a pond of fish and wow how good they all look. That's what you tend to do, and then sigh a lot when someone nicks your fish.
But to be fair, the batch of fish are normally at a price as well. They're normally a decent price.
Yeah, so they are. The fish I'm doing at the minute, you know, they're probably, I don't know, I could retail them at 180 quid actually. And they're going for
my Shangri at 20 pence a fish.
Yours are, mate. Yeah.
I still went and brought yours though, didn't I?
You
I
did.
must say something.
You did, mate. He was there supporting me.
But that's the thing, isn't it?
Seska's dropped us in a quick 10-second short video of the fish that she's grown on. And I think, if I remember rightly, I think she said she's got one that's now got up to, where's it gone? She's got at least 15 of them. And I thought there was one that had grown up to a certain size of summit. 30 odd cm, I think she said. 34 cm. One of mine has reached 34 cm. Right.
They were spawned in bloody, was it May? I should know. Yeah.
I'll share this just so you can see it. Right. There we go. There's an example of the fry that I've been grown on from literally
From fry.
2.5 cm to one in there that's up to 34 cm. Now, if I'm going to be completely honest, for me, I wouldn't have kept any of them.
Why?
That one there.
Because look, maybe the Hiyatsuri in the back corner and the white one that's up front. Because I would have been, for me personally, I would have been looking for something, one, I hadn't got, something, two, a little bit of original, and something without a full body pattern. And that would have been my preference. Not saying that this is the beauty of what you're doing. You're looking for something that you like, not what others like. And that's what we're all picking. And that's what you should be picking from. I'm not meaning for body or for structure in any way, shape or form. For me, there wouldn't have been something there that I would have been interested in that I hadn't already got. So I might have perhaps maybe swapped some of them with Daz or Vicky if they particularly liked them at the end of it and said, right, this is my fish that I'm going to enter, but it's not something I want to keep. Would you be interested in doing it? As opposed to just keeping them for the sake of keeping them. I wouldn't want a fish in my pond that I looked at and thought, I don't particularly like you.
Yeah, but that's the. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah,
To be fair, none of your fish, you, Daz and Gaz didn't. Daz and Vicky didn't have any keeper. Whatever happened,
we didn't. But if for example, if we'd have had keepers, Rick, I would have been looking for something to win.
Yeah, but that's fair enough as well.
And
everybody's got a different set of what they're looking for.
We have, mate, 100%. That's why we always have said is beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Oh shit. Play again.
Don't advertise.
I mean, this one I would have particularly liked. And that's, see, I knew you'd be offended because just because you like something, I mean, you might like a Volvo, but I think they're a shit car. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have one because I don't like them. I don't like them because that's not my taste in vehicle. And my taste in koi is not the same as your taste in koi. You might like your koi at X, Y, and Z, but that doesn't mean that me and you have the same taste. And that's not being offensive. That's just me saying I would be selecting something that stood out, something that was original, something that looked different, because that's what I like in fish, in koi, if I'm choosing and picking. Like, for example, the lemon harawaki that I got, that I grew on from Daz, with a perfect band of yellow all the way around it. Different and original and nothing like anything I'd ever seen before. That's what I'm meaning. Not that your fish are no good. I'm not saying that at all. If there are fish in there that you like and you will enjoy growing on in your pond, that's fantastic. And that's brilliant. This one there, that's something different. I had an orange one that was very similar to that, a paley orange one. And that would have been my keeper until it ended up with a deformity to the point where I couldn't bring it on anymore. There was no point. But that was one.
From a quality point of view in there, there's one fish in there that stands out a mile. For me.
That one that just went off over there, then the show.
No, this Kajaku up here, mate, with a white nose.
Yeah.
Coming towards the air. That fish there, mate, from on top is going to look mental.
This one.
Where's it? No, I don't know where you are. Sat on top of the white one, coming towards the air now. Nose down.
Nose down.
Is going to be
It's got a nice spot on the side of its face, Gus.
It's got a what? Yeah. For me, but that's again for me. And I've had people send
that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mate.
And I've had people send videos through and go, this is my final 5, and I've selected this one, and I'm like, oh crap.
Exactly. That's my point. That's my point. That's the beauty about what it is that you're doing. That is the beauty of it. Everybody sees something in that fish, whether it be the fact that you like that little quirky pattern on its head, that little bit that's wrapping around the dorsal, going through the pectorals, whatever it might be. Everybody picks something for their own reason. And the true fact is, there isn't a bad body fish there, is there? They all have good.
If they're up to 30 bloody centimeters, mate, they've kicked my ass.
Yeah, and they're running ahead with the biggest, largest fish.
They're not the biggest I've been sent. No, that's to me. But what?
That's
but
not the biggest that you've been sent through. No. Oh my god.
But
yeah,
imagine that.
Would it be?
These are 30. These are now 5 months old, so they can easily get one of them to 45 centimeter toe size.
Easy, yeah, not a problem.
Big, if they chose to, but as it costs heat, money, whatever. But that just from what were they were 2 centimeter fry in 5 months, they got fish to that size. 50 quid for the lot. There's in my head, it's the educational bit of it. Okay, you might end up with a couple of fish you want to keep, you might not. But the learning curve you go through is massive when you grow.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's the joy of it. And if we did it with Sankeys next year or whatever, it'd be a lot harder.
Here we go. Nothing wrong with a Volvo. It was just an example, and as the same as what I'm saying about the fish. It's not.
It's just that's the thing. Everyone likes different stuff.
Because I'm going to hit the road because I'm still at work and I've got an hour of travel. So,
all right, mate. Safe journey.
Are you riding, mate?
Oh, you are.
Are you riding then?
Riding.
Joking, mate.
He's pedaling all the way home.
Pedaling in his Volvo. He got his Volvo.
Volkswagen.
See, Sally Harfield says, "I think they're all stunning, Seska."
We'll still be here when you get back, Crafty.
Yeah, probably.
we probably won't. See you later, bud.
See you later, mate.
And that's I'm not saying they're not stunning. To you, they may very well be. To me, I've seen fish that far superior to them. Can I afford them? Can I hell? Doesn't mean I don't like them. Can I afford what I like? No, can I hell? Which would be why the process for me of going through a growing show and growing some fish on is the hope that you might get that one fish that looks mint, unlike anything else that you've had or seen or produced within it. Everybody's going to take it the wrong way and go, well, Gaz is just being Gaz.
But to be fair, I agree with you on the fact that it doesn't matter what you do with koi, innit? If you learn more, you want better. Better costs more, and before you know it, you can't buy what you want at the size where it's guaranteed. So you have to go smaller and small, and that's why I think we sell so many fry, because people buy with the hope
of getting something spectacular from it.
So they can see the parents. Here's this particular parent set of kahakus or showers or whatever we're using, and you just hope that you're the lucky one that might get the lottery winner amongst them. In reality, you're not going to, because you're buying 100 fry, and we've got 100,000 of them, and we're still not. But
take this for an example. You give Si a fish that you thought was a run-at-mill fish.
I know, I give Si a nice little show, and I didn't think it's a run-at-mill fish.
Did you not? Oh, sorry. I thought you'd given him one where they were like, use that as a bit of a testament, see how things are.
Tested, but I wanted to make sure it was a good fish at the end of the day. If it lived, it was a good fish for his bond. It's better. It's turned out better than I thought.
But it's turned out to be an absolutely stunning fish, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, and again, here we get to the crux. I've got one that was I had two that were almost identical. Skin quality, everything about them. I gave one to him and I kept one myself. His far better than mine. But I think that is, again, it's had better food, heated pond, lower stock density. So it's had a better environment.
Better environment. So it's got
maybe it wasn't out of the two. I'd have said it wasn't the better one, but it's blossomed into the better one. And surely that being a koi keeper, and I think if you go to some farms, you will be able to buy fish that aren't, the quality's there, but they're not at the best they can be. So you could take that fish, if you understand what you're buying, and improve it for years to come. Other farms might be able to, I mean, not being funny, Dainichi, you look at their 2-year-olds, those fish have been given the best environment, a better environment than you could ever give them. They've given them a better environment. So those fish are insane. But when you take them, the chances are you're going to give them a worse environment than they've had.
Yeah.
So those fish, chances are actually going to then go backwards.
Diminish somewhat. Yeah, rather than flourish and end up becoming even better.
Yeah, because the environment is such an important thing. And yeah, some places we can't afford to give our fish the heat and the food to get the best out of the genetics. But customers can come and buy those fish. The genetics, if you know what you're looking for, the genetics are still there. They can improve those fish, spend £100 on an Nisai, and in 2 years have it looking absolutely amazing. But you could go and spend £4,000 on a Nisai from Dainichi that's bigger and better than what we're selling by a country mile, but struggle to get any more out of it because they can't give it a better environment than it's had.
Well, you only have to look at, for an example there, Seska had got quite a fair few Kajakus in there.
Yeah.
We didn't have hardly any Kajakus.
But you would have, that's the thing, you would have had them, but they haven't, the environment hasn't
brought out those, that's what I mean.
You know, honestly, I've got 10 out of 200, 10 Kajakus.
No, I'm not. That's what I'm meaning. The environment difference from what they had to what ours had has caused some effect to where that now. I mean, yes, there were Kajakus in there. There's a Kajaku there, but
they're like different animals. Those that weren't heated.
Yeah, it's literally got no pattern to its body at all, other than a little bit on the side of its gill plates, a little bit on the front of its head, and the rest of the body is completely silver. You wouldn't even know it was a Kajaku.
But the point with it is that there'd be a window. So when they left me, you had a small percentage of black fry, and the bulk of them were orange. And the first few were just starting to show the spinal, what could be Matsuba. So at some point between 4 weeks old,
quite a good few.
4 weeks old and say 8 weeks old, those that pushed the fish that had the heat, had the certain environment, have developed loads of pattern fish, and those that didn't have got no fucking pattern fish. Literally,
that was literally the difference.
Like, holy crap! If you don't give those fish the right environment at that time, then
at that stage, then that's one of the side effects that can come from it.
And you can't create pattern on fish once they get to like an inch long or whatever, inch and a half. You can see exactly what their future is. Kind of, they're almost like a miniature version, aren't they? So at some point, something happens. You know, I know roughly, but I don't know exactly. But that's the thing, isn't it? Genetics. We were always taught. We always told you. You read everything. You produce these fish. This parent set, this male, this female produce X amount of pattern fish. Blah blah blah. Patterns are nothing to do with genetics. Patterns are this, and patterns are random. But actually, if you use flowery patterned male and a flowery patterned female, you get more flowery patterned offspring. But then there's the next stage of it. If you use that male and that female and give them a certain environment, you get even more and offspring. That's part of
the madness within it, isn't it? Crackers.
It's not just like, there is like an art form, and also you've got some of the breeders probably don't even know what it is that creates their offspring, which is why sometimes it's a good year, sometimes it's a bad year, because the environment changes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You fry out.
Trying to replicate that and trying to replicate it time and time again is near on impossible to produce. It's like, for example, if Seska were to take another batch of fry again, she might not necessarily get the same results, even if she went through all the same.
If she went through the if we use the same parents and she went through the same process, you'd technically you'd hope the same results, but you don't know that the calcium level, magnesium. She might be because she's running them. She's got it all recorded. But generally, in a normal environment where you're doing stuff outside, the temperature won't be the same. The water, the water conditions, you're filling your ponds, so everything will be slightly different every year. So you have good years, you have bad years. Even if you're using the same parents, your outcomes are different. And that's the bit. So, if you haven't got the quality in the genetics, you're not going to have quality in the offspring. But even if you've got high quality parents, if you ain't get the environment right, you're still not going to have quality in offspring, which is where I was come back to. If Saki said, here's my best parent set, I get 1,000 high class Sankey from these every year, and I produced them and I get none. It's not because of the parents, is it? It's because of the environment.
Yeah.
That's created a different outcome. And that's where it becomes more, you could say, scientific or artful. It's kind of the same thing if you know what you're doing, isn't it? It's not guesswork, but you can't replicate things exactly the same. You can use the same two parents. I could spawn them on exactly the same day every year.
Yeah.
I can't.
But if you haven't got the same
temperatures and food and stock densities.
Like, for example, if you have a really bad wet year like we've had this year, the results that you might have next year, if it's 26 degrees, 28 degrees, 30 degrees throughout the summer, the growth difference, colours, patterns and everything might totally be different again to what they are and what they have been this season.
Well, yeah, and that is exactly the point, and that's why the breeds that have done it for years, they'll turn around and say, well, this pond's good for showers, this pond's good for kakakus.
Yeah.
How is that any different? But they've put fry in there, and they get better results from those water conditions to those water conditions from
different types, different sorts.
And obviously they'll learn more about it, and they'll suddenly go, actually, the KH and the pH of this pond always runs different to that pond.
To that pond. And that affects whatever it does accordingly.
Yeah. I think it's...
Richard's put in there, guys, I have no problem to cull them, but I don't have the skills or know-how what to keep till they're about 3 inch. Rick, pop over and show me what's keepers, please. Well, then this is the thing. It's not a... I mean, right, me and Rick have sat there and I've looked at fish through Rick's stuff and through his stock when we've been grading them. And I've picked up a fish and gone, do you know what? That's nice. And he's gone, no. Why? It's lovely as that. I mean, that's a Deutsche Beko. It's lovely. No. It's not a big seller. Oh, right. So what are we doing with that one? It's going. And you think, but that's different. It's not like anything else I've seen. That's really nice. And for example, when I've called stuff that I've been like the squash tomato, and I quite like them, the Akabeko. I quite like them, and I quite like the look of them. And you think, but that's really a nice bodied fish. It looks decent, and it's got a quirky pattern. It's something different. That'd make a good seller. And we were looking at stuff where we were saying, and I were going through fish, and I was saying, well, this one's not good enough for the Munger pond. But I tell you now, if that got to 30 cm, people would like that. And he went, yeah, you're right, they would. So that goes that way. But he wouldn't have picked it for his pond, which means I can like something that Rick don't like, but yet it's still good enough to grow on and be part of a sales environment for a client because somebody will like it just like I did. And that's the difference between picking stuff and picking the best of the stuff. Because the best of the stuff is what you like. Don't make it right nor wrong. Just for me, there was stuff there that I wouldn't have picked. As for Rick, would have looked in that tank and thought, there's things there that I would have picked, but I might not have picked that one. I might have picked the other one that you turned down. I've watched Anthony from Farm O'Coy or Tony from Farm O'Coy go through his and thinking, why are you throwing out that banger there and keeping that one? That one's way better. It's got a way better body, got a better profile. It's mint, pure lateral, pure zip, cock on. Stunning. And I was saying to like Daz and Vicky, shit, man, I wish I'd got a few that look like that. I wish I'd got a few platinum Ogon that looked as nice as that Doitsu. That was beautiful. I don't understand why has he took that out. But he threw it out because that's not what you were looking for. And that's the beauty of it. You can go through them. You can go through Fry and you can look at Fry. I can look at stuff when we're going through it with Daz and sit there and go, oh, mate, that's banging again. Man, it's not for me. Yeah, but that's really nice, Daz. And then we can both, he can show me some and I think, nah. And then we can both look at some and we'll go, oh, yeah, damn right. So some stuff we think is, quite equally on. Things that he likes, I don't always like. Things that I like, he don't always like. So everybody's different and everybody picks something different. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all these different varieties in the first place. We'd all have a standard.
That's true. There is differences of opinion and perception and such like. So you can have different stuff. But if we were going through a batch of Sankeys, there is criteria and knowledge in. So what I'd pick for my tunnel, especially if I'm doing my special ones, confidence in how they're going to develop. So I'll see stuff that's a weakness that will go wrong. I'll see stuff that will potentially be a negative point or a point in pattern that might look all right as a small one, but it's not going to look all right.
But it's not going to look good when it.
So
that's the difference. That's the difference between the long-term experience that you've had and where people like me can come and pick that up and learn that from you, from your teachings, so to speak.
Yeah, but also, like I say, you'll pick out a Deutz metallic Becker and go, well, that's nice. And I'm like, no, because at the end of the day,
but your boss
actually, it probably will sell really well. Ryan's going out buying fucking Beckos left, right, and centre out in Japan and whatever. But from my point of view, it's basically a failed Yamato or a failed Sankey or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You look at it,
not what it should have been.
But yeah, realistically, we do have to keep a few of those sort of weird and wonderfuls or less common stuff because people will come and buy them.
Yeah.
But also the Sumion stuff like that is much more volatile. So what you're picking, the chance of that going wrong and becoming a Shiro Muji or is much greater. Whereas you Benny pattern you can gauge how long it's going to last. The Sumi's going to do massive changing. So you're going, wow, look at that Becco, that looks ace. But actually, in 4 months' time,
it's probably going to look.
You've got some
a pure white fish. Exactly. Yeah.
But you can only get them seeing them and doing it, can't you?
That's it. That's what I mean. That's the difference. That's how when you're doing a little bit, what we get a chance to come with when we're down there and do some. As Vincent, as Dave will have learned more and more each time they do it of what's going to make a good. It's like, for example, when we were doing the Shura but Suri, when we were grading through on them. You can look at them and think, oh, well, maybe that's just a fish that needs a little bit more time. But then when you turn around and say, look, this is when you take 3 or 4 of them and you go, right, there's 3 or 4 of them, boom, put them in a bowl. And then you put another 2 in there and you go, right, tell me the difference between those 2. And then you can see that the Sumi is almost transparent and there's no central pigmentation to it. And it looks a little bit wishy-washy. It's not as brighter bodied as the rest of them. And you can see that the Sumi is a lot more further developed in them one. But all the same age fish. And you go, that's what we're looking for. That's not as good. Not to say that it won't come better in time. But right now, these are what I'm looking for because I know what these are going to progress like because you've experienced it and you've done it year in, year out with them. That's knowledge you can only gain by being there and doing that kind of thing and seeing it and listening to you and being told that. And that's the interesting bit about it. It's really difficult when you start looking at fish and you're looking for things like that and you then think, oh, God damn, I don't think I've got anything that's as like that. I've not got anything that's as good as that. This is not going to be good because of that. And then you start thinking, well, I've not got nothing there that I would want to grow on anymore because I'm just going to end up with something else that's going to look like something that's not going to look as good and you're wanting to improve your pond with, which was the reason why.
But you'll get into a stage where you say for your pond, you're looking for a fish of a level that you're probably not going to get by buying 100 fry or 200 fry. Realistically, and that's.
It's now the time to start saving up for that.
Honestly, if I've seen Seska's main pond, fish he's got in there, proper level fish.
Yeah, proper level.
Fry ever making it into a pond on quality, not just because you love. There'll be fish there that might end up in there because they're attached to them, but actually to get into that pond on pure quality that it is. If that fish was at a koi show and she went to buy it because that's good enough to go in a pond, probably unlikely. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but that's a different point of it, isn't it? At the end of the day, to grow on.
It's the fun out of doing it.
Huh?
It's the fun out of doing it. I think if you do get that one fish where you think, wow.
Yeah, I mean, some people will keep depending on it, but it depends on where you are in the hobby and what you got in your pond. As to, some people might have a number that are better than their fish in their pond already, and they go, well, these are my best fish now. Other people that they're nowhere near the quality of the fish in my pond. That, and also that's the point of it, isn't it? That's the fun of it. If we do it with Sankeys, really, you have to probably do it with 100 Sankeys fry per person. I think that's one of the biggest things people struggle to cull in. So if we do it with smaller numbers, but the reality of getting one good Sankey from 100 fry is pretty small.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain before when we spoke about it. When you look at going from like 500,000 fry or 500,000 eggs from a spawning, about average?
A big fish, we do, if one of our big 80 centimetre Sankeys, you might get 250,000 eggs from it.
Yeah. So 250,000 eggs from it. And when you actually come through the grading process of that, right down to the nitty gritty of the stuff that you might decide to grow into Nisai or Sensei, you're probably talking 5% of.
Less, way less. Way less.
So I mean, to get something exceptional from that it's almost like rocking horse shit.
It is rocking horse shit, but then you get to the point where actually, and this is where it comes from, if we try and raise 200,000 fry from one parent, and we can't raise them in the absolute best possible way, then we don't get any good ones.
Yeah, so then it becomes a complete
raise 100,000 fish in optimal conditions, we'll end up with a good percentage of good fish. And if we actually halve that again, we'll probably end up, even though we're starting with less fish, we'd end up with more
better fish at the end of it. Yeah.
Because you can't give, and this is where it comes back to. So actually, by only having 100 fry and those people looking after those 100 fry like the best they can, the chance of having a good fish, and when I say a good fish, it may be a fish that they'd pay 300 or 400 quid for.
Yeah.
That actually, and to have raised that fish from a tiny little dot, there's attachment to it. They've got a fish that's paid for everything that they were doing.
Yeah, it's been worthwhile because even though you've invested into it with the food and the feed, because as Seska said, it's quite expensive to do it to get them to that size, which I imagine it would be, because I don't imagine you've been to get them to grow that size. You're not feeding them crap, are you? You've got to be doing it and doing it bob on. So the investment that you've got into it, have you got a 400 quid fish from it?
That's the thing, isn't it?
If you would have been, and that's
the pros.
Potentially, you could end up with an even better fish than that from it, couldn't you? You never know, do you, what you're going to get till you do it and go through the process.
But also you get the learning. So if you're someone that is into koi and wants to buy koi and wants to learn about koi, if you reared 100 Sankeys from an inch through to a point where you can obviously sort them out and end up with your 2 or 3 good ones to end up with one keeper as a Nisai. Yeah. The learning you've gone through that, when you actually then go to a shop and look at Tosai again, you'll have so much better understanding.
So much more understanding of
it. What to look for, what to avoid. Those. It's just so
to look for in development as it's going through that process, because you've seen it from start right through to fruition.
You'll have seen that, or you look at that one's really nice, but it's got those little stray Benny scales on the back of the pattern, all that'll probably fill in. The dealer took up. But when you watch it and that all breaks away and disintegrates, you go, well, next time I'm looking at those 2 toes on a bile. You go, well, I'm not going to take that.
Yeah, because that will drop off. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And you save yourself. You might save yourself a fortune. You know, we sell fry not to get people. We tell people at the end of the day, it's a learning curve. It's something to do for fun, enjoyment. If you end up with some good fish, brilliant. The chances are you're not going to end up with amazing fish because you're taking 100, 200 fish. We're doing tens of thousands, and we haven't got thousands of good ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the few and the stonking quality, top-notch fish are few and far between, aren't they? Because if that were the case, everybody'd be doing it, wouldn't they? And there'd be koi farms all over shop.
They used to put it down to about 1 in 10,000. So imagine if we produced our best Sankey set, 1 in 10,000 would be as good as the parents. So we might have 10 offspring from a spawning that are potentially as good as the parents. That means you can lose none. You've got to raise it. The numbers are a nightmare. But those parents are serious fish, aren't they? You're not buying those parents for a few quid.
Exactly. That's the difference, isn't it?
So, yeah, you spend every time you buy koi that are quality, and the bigger you buy them, and the better they're going to cost more and more and more.
I think we've kind of already we're looking at that now, Claude. I think we've kind of already answered that one as well. Do Japanese breeders use the exact same mud ponds year in, year out for the parent sets or swap around? Well, I think, as Rick has probably just said there, within that some ponds will produce better for X amount of fish or for certain varieties of fish than other ponds would fare better for other varieties. So I would guess
they do swap. That's the point. They swap around until they find
which fish the best
works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's breeders in like different parts. There's breeders in like I think Desensitization down in Toyota sends their fish, their kahakus, up to Nagata, and they're down south, but they do their showers. So they send the fry. They do because ponds up in the mountains.
They're better down that way with what
do their showers down in the south. You know, you're talking hundreds of miles apart.
Yeah.
But they send the fish. It's cheaper to send the fish there to get the best results from those ponds, and then bring them back and raise them. Once you've got them to a certain size, you raise them where you are, because just the water conditions are different in different parts of the country.
There we go. Top Tiger says, Gaz, can I just say that we are so lucky to have this Thursday night live every week. I think some might disagree. I learned something new, and that's, to be fair, Top Tiger, that's the bit why I like it, because when you think you know something and you have a natter and a chat about something, then you find out, shit, you were way out with that. I mean, week in, week out, I learn something new. It's the whole reason behind it. One, so I can learn from it bit by bit, and two, so that everybody else can get a little bit of knowledge and get a little bit of experience. So, appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
I think the whole YouTube thing's insane. It's brilliant.
I do, mate, because it's... And I will bring this one up. I'm sorry, Seska, I didn't mean to offend. It was, if I did offend you, it wasn't in that sense, and that's not how I meant it. But we're all different. That's all I'm trying to say. Yeah. I apologize if you were offended by that.
She was my dark horse to win it. That's why she calls her the dark.
Yeah.
I knew she'd grown well.
What?
Just an 8-foot aquarium at 26 degrees, those fry were going to fly, weren't they?
Oh, they were. They always were going to do, weren't they, in that kind of environment? But are they going to be what Mr. Tate considers a winner?
I don't know, because I've not seen her chosen one yet. She's not sent it.
Well, that's that. I mean, all right. So that's them. Those fish in there are final fish that are chosen.
I've not seen her choice yet.
Right, there we go. So we'll have to wait and see what. And then again, even when you think of it that way as well, this is just going to be Mr. Tate's opinion on those fish again, which is
rubbish.
No, I'm not meaning it in that sense. I'm going to end up upsetting somebody else here, but end of the day, judging standards, and standards of fish are only people's opinions.
But the whole point of judging standards, that's lots of people's opinions about.
Yeah,
What-
but that doesn't mean that
what you look for in the structure of the fish.
in something that they've bred, they've designed, they've established, they produce and produce and produce. But that doesn't mean that every individual person likes that style, do they? Some people just like single colours with no patterns at all.
But that shouldn't make a difference in the judging standards. The quality of the fish,
No, I mean,
the body shape, the terry, everything else is going to be. Well, it's going to be literally impossible because the difference in photography is going to make a difference.
Yeah.
The clarity of the water, the way the fish is led in the bowl. It's just.
Look,
It's a bit.
look, you meanie Gaz. Sorry, I'm a meanie.
It's supposed to be. It's a learning curve. It's a bit of fun. It's just. It is what it is, isn't it? You can't. I'll judge him. Vince will judge him. Alan's going to judge him. Obviously, he's got. But there's three of us doing it. My fish are in there.
But I can guarantee it, all three of you are going to have a difference of an opinion.
Last time we did it, all 100% agreed.
Did you?
There's
it wasn't one that you thought, oh, I like that more than what perhaps Vince did.
No, because the quality. Okay, when you get to a show where you've got loads of fish of a similar quality, it gets a bit more difficult. But yeah, the last one we did was literally nailed on. There was one fish that was just skin quality, body, everything was the best done. There wasn't an argument.
BKKS champion, Gaz.
She will.
Might be. Might very well be.
That's the thing. It's one of those, isn't it? It's a bit of fun. Does it?
Yeah, and that's the element of it, Rick. That's the element of it. Wherever you're doing, however you're doing it, if you're having fun doing it, that's what makes the hobby the hobby.
And I think the thing with the fry is the younger you take a koi, the more you see it change. And we had a guy today from Crouch Valley, nice guy, Mike. He turned up and he goes, he's got all his show fish, and he brought a box of little tiny sheros. And he goes, I get more fun out of watching these because the development and change you see in them is almost daily.
Yeah.
And he'll go out and watch them every day or whatever they grow through. But your big fish don't do so much, do they?
No.
So
well, that's it. Once they've got to that, if you're buying 3-4-year-old fish, 9 times out of 10, you're buying them at pretty much at the best, aren't you?
Yeah, all you're trying to do is condition them, grow them, and condition them to a point, but you're not going to see a great deal of change. Yeah. Lee is loving buying Tozai at the minute, watching that massive change from Tozai to Nisai, that growth and structure. But in reality, there's not massive changes in pattern, and you might get Sumi development, but you're paying decent money for a 20 centimeter Tozai, and it's not guaranteed, but it's more guaranteed. You buy Nisai, it's much more. The bigger you buy them, the more guaranteed your product, because it's further down the road, isn't it? You suddenly buy fry. My God, you're going to see the change for good or for bad, monster change.
Yeah,
but that's what the breeders, and I think that's why a lot of the breeders do it, isn't it? They just to watch that first year of development from an invisible little thing right the way through to
something. Yeah, from picking them out. And I've really enjoyed it when we've done it down at Daz's. When we've gone through fish and you've looked at it, and then you get it to a Tozai and you think, man, that's a nice little fish, that. And we picked that up and watched it through each grading that we've done and thinking, yeah, that's still developing quite right. That's nice. That's what I'm looking for in that fish, Daz. What do you reckon? Yeah, there's a little bell to that. And then you see somebody else that comes and says, oh, that's a nice little one, whatever, and they take that fish away and you think, well, that's somebody that's gone away with some of that we thought were nice and it's progressed into something and they've bought it and they purchased it or whatever, I would imagine there's a real buzz from that. You don't want
the best ones to ever leave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the weird thing is, until they reach that point where their future is so predictable.
Yeah, that you know what it's going to do from that point through on, and it's either just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and
yeah, it's either crossed the path and it's now going to go backwards, or it's completely set and it's just a case of where they go and if they can develop body or whatever. But yeah, those first year, 18 months are it's just mad to pick them, and yeah, especially for us to pick a parent set, to see the offspring, to pick the offspring and hit. Well, you don't ever hit jackpot, do you? But you have good years, you have good batches, bad batches, whatever. It's mental. And then to realise you could change the environment and have different outcomes is even better or worse.
Look at this for a prime example there. Look, Sally said, it's the taking part that counts.
Oh,
there's the Jeff's fish, but I've chosen is better than his choice. He should have sent you in that one, in my one. There we go. See, prime example. Jeff picked some fish, and you're not happy with the fish that he chose.
No, she said, yeah, to be fair, it's a fine line. It's a fine line. But yeah. But that's the thing, isn't it? So they've got two fish. They're arguing over which is the best. That's got to be good.
Mr. Taylor's asked a question there. Is there a reason why Japanese breeders just throw their koi into ponds? Well, there's a couple of reasons, mate, and this is my opinion. One, fish jump out of ponds and land in them all the time. So it doesn't really do them a great deal of harm. Two, they're a commodity, mate. Simple as. Should they be a little bit more gentle with them? In my opinion, I think they probably should, mate, a bit more respectful of them. But if they took that time and was like that with every single fish, they'd never get no done. When you've got thousands and thousands of thousands of fish to go through when you're harvesting, and you've got time is of the essence, have you got time to gently place a fish in when that fish won't come to any harm breaking through the water surface as they do? Does it look a little bit unfair or unkind? I guess some people might think so. But would you think it looked unfair or unkind if the fish just tail walked across top of a surface or jumped out of water and splashed back in it, showing itself off in spring? You know, no, you wouldn't. But if we saw somebody doing that by releasing it by hand and throwing it in the way that they do, we get a little bit.
There is a flip side to this. How should they put them back to the pond?
Exactly. Should they be released in nice and gently and softly?
But you
by
can't.
A hand, by a sock net?
Well, the thing is, most of those ponds, if you're putting fish in them, the levels, if you notice, the levels are always quite low down to stop them jumping out. So the first thing is you can't put them in without climbing on your belly and try, to get that fish down to the water is actually quite tricky.
Yeah, you're going to end up in there with them.
The reason the level's low is because they're going in there, they're going to jump out.
Especially when they come fresh out of mud ponds.
Socks or nets and whatever. And the problem with socks and nets is this is when you catch the fins. That's when you do more damage to the fish. So quite often when you watch, different breeders will do it differently, but quite often you watch them use a sock, but they don't use it as you think you use it. They don't. So obviously, depending on which way the fish is in the sock, you want it to come out head first. So quite often they'll put them in the sock, but the fish flip round in the sock or whatever, and they'll release them almost the wrong way round, you think. And it's, catching anal fins and whatever and splitting fins is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So by actually taking them out of a bowl by hand and dropping them in a pond is
no more different to them really topping and jumping, is it?
Oh, no, for sake of damaging the fish, it's probably less chance of damaging the fish trying to do that than actually other ways around. But it sometimes doesn't look great because the way they do it,
it almost looks like, but they're landing into 6 foot of water, which is 3 foot down from the top. It's not. I don't imagine it's going to do them any harm doing that than what it would do catching and releasing a fish that you were fishing outside of a bank and then you just dropped it down 2 foot when you splashed it back in.
Yeah, it's just the way to lower them in by hand would be a nightmare. But to sock them in or try and net them out and net them in, the chance of catching fins and stuff, you're more likely to damage the fish. Although it might look nicer on the camera until the fish is hung off a net. As you see, whenever you handle them, it's a nightmare. Nets and koi. Yeah, they've got a habit of.
What about plastic? But they tend to move them a lot, don't they? In plastic bags, don't they, as well? Because then really there's nothing much for them to get caught in and all snagged up on.
So quite often what you'll see is the easiest way to move them from a mud pond, individual fish, is bag them, but only with a little bit of water in. You'll carry them up, and they'll always put them into a bowl by the truck or whatever. Then then you watch them. They then pick them out by hand and put them in, and you think, oh, that's dangerous. But the reason they do that is because of all the shit water.
Yeah, they don't want all that going in there and then going
clean water. That's what they do. If you try and sock them out, you're taking the shit. You might only take a litre of shit water every time you do it. But by the time you put 100 fish into that transport tank, that's 100 litres of shit water in the transport tank.
I do think as well, though, when when these breeders have been doing it for like 30, 40 years, it's a business to them, isn't it, as well? And the fish probably don't have they have a money, what's the word?
No, to be fair, they look after the fish. The point is they don't want to they can't sell a fish if it's damaged.
No,
so
exactly.
Everything they're doing might not look right to us as hobbyists that look after the fish, but in reality, as a fish farmer, the safest way of moving your fish about without damaging it, if it is picking it out and just chucking it in a pond, that's the least way you're going to split fins or do damage.
Damage it, yeah.
Then that's what you're going to do. It's.
But that's what I'm meaning. When they're running a farm, though, Rick, and they've got them, I don't know, let's say 300 fish that they've got to bring in, and they bring that one in, but they've still got another 3 or 4 mud ponds. It's a quicker, faster process as well, isn't it? Not necessarily a rougher process, but a quicker process to grade through them, have a quick look. That one's going there, that one's going there, that one's going there, and just getting on with it and doing it and moving through the motions to get that process done. They've a window, aren't they? They've got to get them in. They've got to get them in, and they
do. But you notice they're transferring the least amount of water all the time as well. So they're literally they take them out in bags to that bowl. They put them into the transport tank. They take them out of the transport tank and they're moving from that bowl, and they're not moving that water. They're literally just moving fish around about. Okay, quite often they've got a bag in their mouth. And it's no different to me. I'd have a beer in one hand and a fish in the other.
Yeah. I don't see as it would, personally, I don't see as it does them any harm, but it might not look the very best, if that's what you're implying. Somebody's saying that
we're getting fish out. Why don't you use a koi sock, get them out of the mud ponds and stuff? The reality is when you've got to get 1,000 fish out of a seine net, and there's weed and duckweed and clay and algae, you're trying to do it with a koi sock, and you go scoop, and you've got 6 fish and 10 kilos of water and shit, and it's just it's not a way of doing it.
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of element to remove all that shit and crap and everything else that's going in there, because eventually you're just going to end up with a transport vat that's just literally full of shit more than fish.
Shit. So you use a net, and obviously, so you're netting them and flipping them into a clean water bowl, and then you're taking them out. And the more times you separate the fish from the crappy water, the cleaner and easier it is to deal. You just remove that crap, but it doesn't always look. And that's perhaps why people don't film animal farming that much.
Yeah. Always going to be an element of that to it as well, isn't there? Lee says, though, I'm amazed they don't torpedo into the bottom or other fish. I just think it's laziness.
I think they're lazy.
I don't think it's laziness at all. But I mean, if you ever see a fish that when it's in a bowl, or you've got 10 of them in a bowl, and they're all battering around, and you spook them, and they all go, and they're everywhere, aren't they? And how many times have you seen them in a fish vat in a shop, and you've leant over, and they all go, and all you can hear is do 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 as they all bang themselves off. They're a lot more hardier than what you think. They're not fine bone china, are they? They're not going to take brain damage from a little quick of a. And the likelihood is when they're hitting that level of water, they're just the same, and they react just as quick as they need to do if they jumped out of that water in a lake and they land back in and steer off wherever they want. They're pretty quick and responsive, aren't they? So I wouldn't say it was laziness. I just think it's the most quickest, easiest process for doing so.
Yeah, if it was any detriment, it is their livelihood. So if there's any detriment to it, they wouldn't do it. I guarantee
Yeah, if they were going to throw a fish in that's worth 7.5, 10, 15, 20 grand and launch it into a pool and thought it were going to do some damage to it, I'm pretty sure that they'd be thinking twice about it if it were going to damage the fish. Because at the end of the day, if they wreck that fish in process of doing it, then that's all that money gone, isn't it? You see them walking along with them sometimes in koi socks and they're thrashing around like crazy. I would have thought that would be a lot more likely to damage themselves inside that koi net, knock a scale, pull a fin, split a dorsal, whatever, than them ducking them into a pond to left-hand side of them. But doesn't look the best, I agree. Let's go into a couple of the questions that we have had this evening, and then we're going to make it a bit of an earlier night, Rick, because we don't have any koi appreciation.
No koi appreciation? Oh.
No. Well, I just thought with it getting to this time of year now, it might not be as well to be still having people netting up and balling up the fish when we get into colder temps. You know, some people that aren't heated might find that the fish get a bit too stressed too much with it doing as it is. Switching off your UVs over winter. What do you reckon to doing that?
Good question. I'd say yes, but just watch the water, really, to be fair. What's the trouble is winter's a term from us, so I'm still feeding fish. You're in the middle of winter. You're in Baltic. You're in I don't know. You don't want your pond to go so green and whatever, you can't see what's going on. So I'd keep a UV on until your water temperature's dropped to the point where you say 10 degrees, and when you switch it off, it stays clear.
Yeah. And if it isn't that case, when you can save a little bit over the winter.
Let's say, when our ponds reach 10 degrees, should we turn the UV off and stop feeding the fish? Because winter's different, isn't it? Say, let's say temperature at 10 degrees, I'm not going to feed my fish anymore. I'm going to turn my UV off. Whenever that happens to be. For you, it's September. For us, it's January.
For me, it was about 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Because less sunlight, less likelihood that you're going to be getting a mass bloom of algae in your pond. Likelihood is we're getting less daylight hours. Well, yeah.
Yeah, it all goes towards clear water, doesn't it? So why spend 55
unnecessary money
hour running your bulb down? But you still, obviously, depending on how you set up, you still obviously the water. Most people will still have the water going through the UV. So just watch that.
Switch off the UVs and monitor it. If it starts greening up a bit, put it back on.
Yeah.
At least through the period while it was switched off, you're saving a little bit of energy and you're saving a bit of cash.
Pretty much. Well, you answered that quick.
Well, there, Rob Fox is saying, last thing you want is the UV electronics getting colder over the winter than having a panic if it's not working then when summer comes. How would, if you've got your pond running at like 10, 8, 6 degrees, how would that make your electronics any warmer or colder when the water's passing through it at 8, 6 degrees? It's still going to be cool because that 8 and 6 degrees is cool, isn't it? The waterproof units that the electronics don't go anywhere near. You only have a bulb that's.
They shouldn't.
It should. Well, actually, I mean, there are an alga. What is it? An alga, whatever. Those ones are actually submerged in your water, aren't they? So those ones are a little bit.
Electronics are, that's the point.
But the electronic side and the electrical side of it shouldn't be anywhere near your water.
Yeah, at the end of the day, switching on or off shouldn't make a difference, really. But if you've got any moisture in your UV box bit that sits there, I don't know. Maybe.
I suppose keeping it home would keep the BCAS electronics are warm when running. Yeah, but that's like saying your exterior light is warm when running. When it's switched off, you won't think, oh, I'm going to keep that on all winter, would you?
No. It's a bit extreme to say I'm going to run, 55.
You when you need it on, don't you?
Yeah. It shouldn't, but I get it's one of those things that you might switch on in the spring and it goes pop.
Pop. Yeah.
And your power trips.
That
then you
could-
know those trips.
Yeah.
And you go back to
could
the
be a light
manufacturing.
out, couldn't it? But just think how much you've saved throughout those winter months instead. You'd be able to go out and buy a new bulb at half the price of what you would have used for your running cost of electric, keeping it on.
But the reality is the bulb should only imagine if you're 6 months you're running it when you don't need it, that bulb you've halved its lifespan by running it.
Yeah.
As well as everything else, as well as the power to run it.
It's no different between doing that and switching off your ultraviolet when you're using treatment. If you're running treatment for a couple of weeks, you switch your UV off for a couple of weeks, then put it back on again.
Yeah, technically, all the electronic components UV should be dry, so it shouldn't be an issue. If it's damp in there,
they should be IP68, shouldn't they? So they should be bone dry. They shouldn't have any form of damp getting in there full stop, or otherwise it'd already gone bang with a pop any road, wouldn't it? Anyway, that was one of the questions that somebody did ask on the group this evening, or the other day.
But yeah, I'd say don't use the term winter. More
temperature
is more important. Algae, everything is to do with temperature and day length, and same as your fish growth. It's all the same, isn't it?
I personally believe that's a myth too. Lamps only got 6 month lifespan anyhow. I've had a lamp in my pond for 2 years and it's still kept my algae at bay. I only replaced it this season.
The UV is designed to give off a certain wavelength where it's more effective for a certain amount of time of running. Yeah. The manufacturer will be different, all the components. So we personally change a bulb on a unit if it stops working.
When it stops working, yeah, that's what I did. I noticed my pond go beginning of this, probably just before summer. I noticed my pond starting to green up a little bit. Sure enough, my UV bulb changed them both, and Bob's your uncle. One had blown, the other one slightly different because it's one of those yummy some or others, whatever it's called. And that one does need to be changed regular. That one did about 8 months, and I could see like the vibrant blue color that you get like that had turned more of a purple color. So that one had obviously producing less UVs to do its job, and the other one had blown completely. So I replaced them both and not had a problem. But I normally turn mine off the UV when it starts getting round about now wintry.
10 degrees.
Wintry.
But that's the point. Everyone's pond's slightly different.
That's what I reckon as well. They just become less effective than what they would be as brand new. But I think the 6 month bit lifespan.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, it's looms and the amount of hours it's running.
The amount of running hours and lumens that it produces in it for how long it will do.
But yeah, in reality, most people have got way too much UV than they perhaps need. So,
how expensive do you reckon it would be though to run it at the running costs of a UV bulb all winter? I suppose that would depend on the size of the bulb you're running, mate. I've only got 22 watts running on my pond in total, and that's from 2 units, and it's only 22 watts.
The most common ones we come across on all the ponds we do are 55 watt units. Yeah. Either the TMC or the EA ones. They're the most, people just seem to have 55 watt units. So work out. Well, so the rocket pond, as we call it in the Munger Tunnel, Dave and Vince's pond, blew all electrics over there. I've had to change it round. It's now running on 40 watts. The whole pond. That is it. 40 watts. And it is mint. It's got over 100 fish in there now on 40 watts of power. So most UVs are using more power than that
whole pond. Yeah.
So I'm not saying you don't need 55 watts of UV, but you can work out 55 watts of UV. You know you're paying 25p a kilowatt hour. Get the calculator out. I think I worked out 40 watts is 28p a day on our tariff on that unit. So to run that pond is 28 pence every 24 hours, which is
nothing.
So you're probably saying if you were running a normal pump and a UV, you could probably turn that up to £1 every day.
Yeah.
It depends on what you pay for your electric, and I can't.
And the size, it's like this. Jigs was saying some people run way too big a UV for the ponds. I'd agree with that, mate, as well. But there are some people that are. I suppose it all depends on the positioning of your pond, how much sunlight it gets, and whether or not the UV that you've got is capable of dealing with it. And maybe you might have to step up that extra 10 watts to be able to keep it under control. Every pond's different, isn't it? But yeah, 22 watts does 5,000 litres, 5,500 litres a piece of paste. Don't need
only if the water's put through.
Only in my environment.
But if the water's not put through it in the right way.
There you go, Humbercoy. It cost me 36 quid to leave it on all winter. 55 watts, approximately 32 pence per day.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So we can all work it out and work out running your pump when you don't need to, or running a second pump, or running UV, running your ozone, whatever it happens to be, is what it is. To leave it, if it's 36 quid to leave it on a winter when you don't need it, and you've got to replace the bulb because now you've used it for an extra 6 months, you're up to about 60 quid. Might as well just turned it off.
Yeah.
60 quid, I don't know.
Yeah, it's right, isn't it? 60 quid is a damn sight cheaper than knock it off. Rob's put in there, one thing I've noticed with Lee's drum, he has retrofitted UVs in his drum. He does realise you shouldn't stare straight into a UV. It needs an isolation on the lid opening.
He probably doesn't stare at the...
Does it? Does it melt the retinas out your head the second that you look at it?
No, it gives you arc eye, mate. It's bad.
Oh yeah. But that's long term. That's long term staring at. If you look at something when you're using a MIG welder or a TIG welder, you can look at it, and it won't do shit. But if you do 20, 30 minutes of looking at it when you're staring at it, you'll get arc eye, and the arc eye is bad. Hurts like hell. But a quick glance. Pop your lid up and have a look. It don't do no to you at all. Long-term exposure of it would do, and keep doing it again and again and again, and it's going to do some damage. But if you're just having a quick look in, check. But yeah, I agree, mate. It would be better to switch them off. If it's servicing it all, cleaning it all, and what have you, it would be better to turn them off than leaving them on. But just a quick glance, yeah, doesn't do anything.
So when I first went to Japan, I saw how they run their UVs, and it's like shit.
Yeah, they're just literally sometimes
like a settlement chamber underneath. You lift it, and they've just got bulbs. So before the Algram ones, they used to have like your bulbs, your fluorescent bulbs, they're UV bulbs. They put them in over top of a settlement or a chamber where the water.
They just sat over top of it.
3 or 4 of them bulbs. You're like, oh shit. So as soon as I go back to work, I've set the same thing up. I said to the boss, like, well, we don't need all these UVs, but you've got it all plumbed in. We just put the bulbs in over it, like lift the lid up. You got your bulbs in, lift it up. He's doing so. He's looking at it. Next thing, his eyes are screwed. He's like, oh my God, I can't see nothing.
Have you not ever been in a sunbed?
No, mate. When have I been near a sunbed? I go on holiday.
You've been in a sunbed and go in. Now, it's not compulsory to wear goggles in there. You can go in a sunbed and you can stand there in them and look in them. And you can be in them for 3 or 4 minutes, sometimes longer. You don't do no to your eyes. It's UV bulb, just the same. That's
different, yeah, but you get UV, you get different types of bulbs.
Yeah, but it's still, I mean, it's good enough to burn your skin and give you a tan. You'd think it'd damage your eyes.
But at the end of the day, the way they use it is that UV exposes to the water for like minutes at a time. It's much more efficient. We put them in these little stupid tubes, and the water goes.
Yeah, literally
It's
flying
through
past
it
it.
before you know it, isn't it? So
I saw one other day on Lee's video. This looked like it looked like water that was cascading over the top of it. It was like a chute, it was like a stainless steel chute, and in the top of it, it had the UV bulbs, and the lid just sat over the top of it, and it literally just the water passed through underneath it and returned back to the pond. But this was, like a diameter like that sort of size boxing that the water was flowing back in, and the lid just sat over the top of it.
Exactly, but they do things ad hoc like we would. So you've got one guy will chuck it in a return. Someone else will put it in a waste or whatever, where you've got water flowing back to the filter. But yeah, they used to have them literally as the walkways. You lift up the walkway, and just the bulbs will be over a section of the whole filter. So that water is probably taking a minute to pass through that UV, whereas we're putting it through
A small
inch and a half thing going through like an absolute shoot.
Yeah, belting through it.
It's got the contact. It's like contact time. At UV, it has to have time to do its job.
Yeah. So you got to put it through there again and again and again and again constantly.
Well, you put it through lots and lots of times, or slow it down and expose it for a period. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some of them on some of the videos this season over there. They got, like you were saying, these are big settlement chamber tanks, and they're literally just tied to a piece of string with a cable. A piece of string tied to the end of a lamp, and it's just there floating on the top of the pond.
Just hanging in there.
All right, that one wasn't particular on, but it was just literally laid on top, just waving around in water. But at the time, it wasn't switched on. But I would imagine that's quite bright when they do.
But if you put a lid on it, doesn't matter, does it? Just get a nice glow in the building.
This was on a massive, like nearly as big as this room. It was like a water settlement vat that then moved back to all other ponds. So it was just literally a walkway bridge over the top of it, and this bulb just ligged in water. It's got to be a UV.
Yeah, but maybe they got it on time clock and it comes on at night.
Oh, there you look. There. Sid. Did you see how? There you go. That's the one. Yeah. Just hanging over the pond.
He had it stuffed in his return water coming in, didn't he? Yeah.
They don't have health and safety over there. You're right, mate. That's probably an L. It was like a fucking lightsaber. It was, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, the ones out there 20 years ago were just those normal kitchen type fittings, but instead of a fluorescent bulb, there's a UV bulb in it. Chucked it and literally just fucking over the ponds.
Somebody put in a question other day, Rick, and I know we spoke about this before, and I know we've touched on it a couple of times, about the best practice when getting new koi at this time of the year. And the question was, my pond's at 14 degrees, and I want to move my fish from one. I think my understanding of it was my fish from my grow on at 14 degrees to my main pond at 14 degrees, or should I wait till spring? And they were both ponds, both temperatures 14 degrees. And a lot of people were saying in it, no, you shouldn't really do it. You shouldn't be moving your fish at this time of year. It's too cold. 14 degrees is too much of a risk. What happens, for example, if you introduce parasites from one pond to the other that you're not going to be able to treat, you're not going to be able to do this, that, and other? Well, you'd hope that perhaps maybe they treat the pond beforehand. But is there any detriment to the fish being moved to if it's come out, say, from a sales pond at yours, and that pond's at 15 degrees, and my pond at home's at 14, 15 degrees, is there any reason why I can't purchase that fish from you at this time of year to put in my pond?
No. It's about the most. Yeah, we'd have to move all our fish at lower temperatures than higher temperatures. If we could, 100%. They travel better, less stress, less problems. The only bonus you've got with higher temperatures, obviously, you got there. If you moving young fish, they're much more tolerant to stuff at higher temperatures. So if you're shipping tozai about whatever, you want to be moving them at temperatures you can A, deal with stuff, and B, they're at their happiest.
Yeah.
But generally, yeah, when you start talking about 2, 3, 4-year-old fish, you'd much rather move them at lower temperatures. And if they're going from 14 degrees, they're acclimatized at 14 degrees. They go into 14 degrees, bob on.
No problems at all.
It's a damn sight better than at higher temperatures when traveling's a problem. Obviously, if it's your own quarantine or your own grow on, if it's a grow on and those fish have been grown from fry, there might be an issue because they're young fish that have never seen what they're going to experience when they go in the main pond. So you'd be better off moving a fish again, the same as you would with a quarantine, moving a fish from the main pond into them where you've got control of stuff, because your fish in the main pond will carry stuff that if you've grown some fry on from a farm will have never seen. And then you've got the option of dealing with the outcome in that environment. But 14 degrees isn't.
So for that gentleman that wanted to do it, it was perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable, not an issue, because even at 14 degrees, as long as you're maintaining those temperatures at 14 degrees, you're still in the window for being able to treat should you need to do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if your fish in your pond have got no problem, the fish in your other pond have got no problem,
You got no issues.
Why would you have an issue? Like I said, the only issue you might have is if you've got a tank of, if you brought a load of fry from a farm like us, say, grown them on till they're so big and they've never seen anything that's in your main pond.
Yeah.
They're perfectly happy. But the minute you mix the two batches, there's a good chance the young ones are going to have an issue because they're going to now see stuff they've never seen before.
And would it be better for those younger fish to do that through the warmer months than it would be through the colder months?
100% through the warmer months, but keeping them fish at 6 months in that tank might not be great. So you'd be better off moving a fish from your main pond into the grow on.
Seeing if it's going to expose them to anything.
You're not stressing the young ones. You're just putting a big fish, another fish in there with them. If there's an issue with that, then you can treat them. You can change the temperature. You can treat those fish. You can do whatever. You've got control. If you move all those fish into your main pond and there's a problem, you can't change the temperature. You're in a problem. So you always want to make sure if you're going to mix two stocks together, if you can, you do it in the environment that you've got control of.
Yeah.
So you take one out of the main pond that's 10,000 gallons, put it in your grow on that's 500 gallons. If you find that you've got a problem with white spot, costia, whatever, you can change the temperature, you can treat the fish, you can do what you got to do. Once they're all settled together, you now know that those fish have seen what those fish have got, and you can move them across.
Yeah.
Without.
So, what about in the sense of temperature swings? Is it better for a temperature swing to swing colder than temperature swings to swing higher? You know, for example, if you bought some fish from a shop and they were in their shop, their ambient temperature in their shop was 16, 20 degrees, but you went home and your pond temperatures were at 26 degrees, which is the safer, the swing up or the swing down?
Swing up's definitely better.
Yeah.
100%.
Swing down, too much of a shock, too dangerous, more likely to stress your fish.
Well, generally, they like warm water. So if you take them up, their immune system, everything about their metabolism, their immune system is going to be better by going up. Yes, they might now have to face whatever. Again, if they have a problem at the higher temperature, things happen quicker. But it's much better for them than if you go down and you have a problem, and they don't like going down in temperature. And there's no coin in the world that you go from 20 degrees and put it into 15 degrees. Is it going to be particularly happy?
Yeah, like Matt said there, knowing how to cope with sleeping cause disease if you're going to grow and tongue to a main pond. And then the other one there, he says, swings like Ricky does, big time.
He's had a rum, and you know. Cheers, Matt.
Yeah, hot to go. I mean, hot to cold is worse.
100%. They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got nowhere to go with that, and they don't like it, do they? It's no one likes it, to be fair, generally. But yeah, you go up. The only issue you have going up, and funnily enough, today I had a message. Someone had some fish from us. Our ambient temperature was about 10 degrees when we shipped them, and they've gone into an indoor aquarium, and the fish have gone. They're just going mental.
Yeah,
they've come up 8-10 degrees. So if there is any parasites, the parasites are now going bonkers because the temperature's come up. They've gone into a 3-foot aquarium, which fish are going bonkers. They've never been in a glass tank, and the difference in a glass tank is when they see themselves, don't they? They go.
Yeah, they don't.
You notice when you put a fish for the first time in a glass tank, they just go mad.
Yeah, they do a lot up and down,
up and down the glass like crazy, and then they go around the air and they try and jump out and do.
Yeah,
these
they
fish
try everything to get out of there, don't they?
Yeah, so these fish have gone from a monster pond, cold, to a little tiny hot aquarium, and they just go bonkers. And it's just you can't get around that. They've got to get used to that, but it's making sure that they don't all die in between going in there and just being aware of it, because the chances are, if there's anything underlying, it's just going to go boom, innit? You know, white spot, those sort of things that are sat there when they're cold, suddenly 10-degree temperature change are just going to go woomph.
No, we had another question that were put in earlier by the koi guy, and I didn't miss it.
Is that Ross?
Yeah, Ross. Yeah.
I want some of his food, man.
Question for the panel. My uncle had a bad bacteria breakout in the pond over the summer. All fish dead, had to put to sleep. There is still water in the pond. How can he 100% kill any bacteria in the pond before adding fish for the spring?
The two answers this. Answer one is chances are if there's no host in there, chances are there's not going to be an issue. But as much as I know that, if I'd had a problem that was that bad and the fish had died,
and you wanted to be 100% sure,
bang some bleach in there.
That's it. I was thinking about maybe running bleach through it before emptying it. Bleach it. That's where I would have said, mate, straight away. Bang! Bleach kills 99.9% of all known bacteria. So if it's that 0.1%, you're damned unlucky, aren't you? So yeah, bang a bottle of bleach in it, mate. Run it through your system, drain it all down, top it back up, go again.
It is one of those that those nasty bacterial problems are kind of host specific. So if you don't introduce a fish to introduce the problem, it can't come from there. It's one of those things that you normally put a fish in that's carrying it, goes through the fish. Normally a few fish survive, and then those fish get moved somewhere else, and it rolls on. If you've got no fish in there at all, chances are you're completely safe. But if you've got an empty pond and you're not putting fish in there till the spring or whenever, why risk it? Just nuke it. Belt and braces.
Belt and braces, yeah, that's what I would have said exactly the same thing, mate, as well. And he's actually put in there, evening all flights and hotels booked for the national next year, thinking ahead.
Bring some of the sacky colour with you, mate. I'll give you £129 a sack.
He did put another one in and all. He did put something else in about something. There we go. I have to move a 70 cm chag to a new home tomorrow. Going to be in a bag for about 3 hours. No oxygen tank. Is filling the bag with your air pump enough for a couple of hours?
Oh, well, sorry, asking me.
Having to move a 70 cm chag to a new home tomorrow. Going to be in a bag for about 3 hours. No oxygen tank. Is filling the bag up with the air pump enough for a couple of hours?
Yeah, absolutely. It should be absolutely fine. The colder it is, the less. If you move it tomorrow, you can't really stop feeding it. I'd hope you'd have stopped feeding it beforehand, so that the less food it's got in it, the less waste it'll produce, the colder the temperature you pack it in, the slower its metabolism will be, so the less oxygen it's going to use. The bigger the bag, so you want to pack it. Obviously, if it's a big fish, you need quite a lot of water, but actually you want to get as much air in that as you can. And more importantly, when you tie the bag up, tie it so it's under pressure, because the higher the pressure you tie the bag, the more oxygen or more air you'll be pushing into the water for it.
All right, there you go. That's a good tip for you, mate. So a nice, taut, well-tied bag.
Yeah, literally, if you tie the bag off, you find that it's not,
but not that tight that it goes.
don't pop it. But if you find it's not that tight, you can do some packing or whatever around it, so you increase the pressure.
All right. So even if the bag's got a little bit of slackness to it, if you put something in there to pack it and make that bag taut,
so you're just increasing the air pressure.
That increases the pressure, which forces it into the oxygen into the water.
Yeah, the higher the pressure on water, the more oxygen it'll hold.
So covering the fish over its body completely.
Ideally, yeah, you to top of the gill. So even if it's backs out of the water, because the chance of 70, a big chag, it's going to be quite a big fish. So it's going to be quite a heavy, heavy box and bag, isn't it?
So a good 3/4 of the fish completely covered.
Yeah, the more you can pack the water as well, so you make the water deeper without being heavier. So again, if the bag's quite a wide bag, put polystyrene or something down the sides of the boxes so you constrict the width of the bag, which will make the water deeper without increasing the weight, and then you can increase the pressure on the bag. Yeah, I'm sure he can work it out.
Yeah, clever packaging. That makes sense.
Like his litre of rum, that was clever packaging.
It was, yeah.
It was that big in a litre. That was clever packaging.
There we go. Question on that topic: when fish look at the pond window from the inside, are they like us and see just our reflections? Because I swear they see me coming. I would reckon they see you coming, mate. I don't. My fish in there now are all sat there now looking at me, waiting for me to approach that tank and feed them. And the minute that I get up, they all run to they all swim to the area that they get fed in, so that they see you coming. But I think when they first get in a tank and the first in from when they've been in a big environment, they're trying to find a point to escape. I think that's why they're stressing and they're going up and down tank. But from certain angles, when you look at the side pictures of glass, if you look at it from a certain angle, you can't even see the fish, you just see a reflection. So from some angles, I would reckon they might not see you at all, mate. But when you get directly straight onto them, I think they can. Don't know for sure, but
it's glass, isn't it? It's flat. So if you're straight on it, you'll see through it. If you look at an angle, you'll see yourself.
Yeah.
You get reflection through. It's different, isn't it? So imagine you get put in a glass box, and if the light's right, or you've got a dark wall behind it, it's like a mirror, isn't it? So you just see yourself. And then you go face onto it, you'll see through it.
Yeah.
Must be pretty freaky to keep seeing
yourself. That's what I mean when you've gone from...
Yeah, over there, it's me over there.
When you've gone from one environment to that one, it's going to be a big change as well. Right then, another one that I've seen a lot of people putting questions in about is carp pox. Carp pox is always something that starts to show its ugly head this time of year as water temperatures come. What's the best thing to do with them? I mean, I know the answer, but there might be people out there that don't. So, carp pox, do's and don'ts, and treatments.
Right, basically. Yeah. Stress brings it on. Stress, temperature, it's like it's an immunity system. Or the immune system. It's one of those, yeah. And you see sort of different types of it almost sometimes. Some fish get it proper waxy lumps. Some fish just get it. You see it in the fins quite sometimes. They just almost like a thick whitening in the fins. When the temperature drops, they get stressed, and then it sort of always dissipates again. And some fish just turn into the most hideous looking mongrels you've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, that achiever that I had years and years and years ago, that was unreal. That thing literally went from what started as a small little greying patch just at the side of the dorsal to 3/4 of the fish just being covered in a waxy film lump about 3-4 mil, covering it everywhere. It just looked like somebody dipped it in wax. It was hideous, man. The thing looked absolutely horrible. But it got to the point where it spread across its dorsal, its fins, and its tail, and it was just in tatters. Everything was just dropping in bits with it. But it took like 8-9 months to get as bad as that, and I tried everything that I could. Sometimes it made a little bit of improvement, and then it seemed to come back worse. And then it got worse and worse and worse. And in the end, I just thought, you know what? Sorry, mate. Goodbye. Your time has come. But, yeah.
Went to your dad's pond.
No, he didn't. It went to Wheeler Bin, mate. I sedated it. But,
To be fair, Crafty would be here and go, oh, temperature, which it is. Temperature's kind of king.
yeah, the temperature, but that was through the summer months, Rick. It got worse and worse and worse.
Different. You get different types of carp pox. So your normal one is something that affects fish below 17 degrees. It affects fish that have not had it before. They have it, a few bits, warms up, pops off. You get the odd fish that just suffers with it. And nothing else in the pond's got a problem, but one fish just looks like Quasimodo, and that's.
But it can be transferred from one fish to another fish as well, can it?
Yeah, but it's a herpes virus. It will transfer to all of them, but their immune system will deal with it. So normally they get it once, and then tend not to suffer with it. So it's less prevalent than you used to see, but most fish now, also coming in from Japan, they don't experience cold, do they? Exactly. So they don't see it.
They get over here, they get a stress event, cools them down, and then both out they come with it.
But they've got to come across fish that have got it as well. So quite often you might have an old fish that's had it, and your new fish
new fish when it gets there.
Yeah, it's just one of those. It's salt does reduce it sometimes, but again, that's probably reducing the stress on the osmotic system, so they can fight it better. It's not getting rid of the virus; it's just helping the fish be stronger. And I think Vercon, I don't know how much, it's not something that's Vercon, something that was big for a few years for dealing with for using with cage. I don't know where to put that quite, but it's an antiviral product that probably has some effect in used in the right way, either to stop them getting it in the winter. I don't know. That's something that I've not really tried, but it's an antiviral product that kills viruses in the water column. Could have use.
Yeah. There we go.
Realistically, temperature is the number one thing. Bring them above 17 degrees, their immune system normally deals with it. Unless you got one of those Chagoi or Ochuba that are just covered with it.
I mean, I've noticed one or two that have had the odd little lump that's come up, but I did have that one. I got two fish at the same time. I got I got three. My forever bonsai, which is now herring shit somewhere. A chag, a Deutsch chag, and the achiever, and all three of them ended up coming down with, well, two out of the three got carp pox within weeks of being in pond. One that was just a little bit on its left pec, that remained a small little bit. And then one day I'd netted it up and had a look at it. It was like there was a lumpy bit hanging off of it, but it wasn't a lumpy bit hanging off of it. It was part of the pectoral that had like broken away with it, that it was forming around. That lump dropped off, and over a period of about 6-7 months, that grew back then. And now that fish is in my dad's pond, no problem, and it's gone. It's never come back. I have one which develops a little bit on its Miyazaki that I got from Dad's. It develops a tiny little bit on its tail, and that's it. Just a tiny little lump that comes up on its tail. It'll be there for winter months. Come spring, it goes and disappears. But each time, like last year through to this year, it didn't seem to be nowhere near as big, and it seems smaller again this time. So it's like it's progressing through it and getting better and better each time. So yeah, I've not had any other fish with it, but I was more worried about when I heard that it was transferable, that all my other fish might end up getting it as well, but they haven't done. So touch wood. Touch wood. We've been looking. No others have got any on. So we'll have to see.
It's a herpes virus, isn't it? So it's contact, and it's so yeah. Generally, if you've got one fish with it, they've all been exposed.
To it. It's whether or not their immune system
to
deal with it. Yeah,
it's like going in a room and someone sneezes, and you've all just suddenly been exposed to whatever. One person gets ill, but the other 10 of you don't, or whatever. I don't know. The viruses are weird things, man.
There, Rob's saying there that he was always informed that it lasts about 3 seasons. Is that a fallacy? Maybe not, because it might take up to about 3 years for its immune system to become strong enough to deal with it, mate. So they're supposed to grow out of it, aren't they?
I think the weird thing is you generally see it in Nisai, and the reason for that is because a lot of your younger fish never experience the cold. So it's not something that naturally happens in their second year. It naturally happens in their second year because their first year, you don't let them go cold. So the second year is the first time they go cold. So really, it should be, again, it's the first time they experience a period of cold water whilst that virus is present in that water body. And then you see it. And yeah, different varieties seem to suffer with it differently. Chags seem to suffer with it quite badly.
Yeah. That were all my dogs.
Considering they're bulletproof to most stuff, chags and octopus do seem to get it sometimes in a worse way than a lot of other fish. But
yeah.
Well,
the two that I've had have been chag and the chiba. The chiba was shocking, man, really bad. But Craig Stubbs says, my Kiyosuri had carp pox in summer, still has a little now, scraped all clean. I'm suspecting down to nitrate issues all season.
Possibly, but it's more just that fish is susceptible to it. If it's a nitrite or problem, all your other fish might be stressed and upset. If you've got one fish that's got a problem all summer, it's probably that fish is just
being stressed.
One of those fish.
And it's showing out by its immune system getting lower and carp pox becoming.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same cold sores, isn't it? You get some people suffer with them all the time, doesn't it? Literally, the first time they get angry, they get a cold sore.
Oh, there we go. We've got a question there. Someone give me... Sorry, Steve, I missed this earlier on when you posted it, but someone give me a name of an idiot-proof book, i.e. pictures and names of types of kois, please. Thank you. Lots of other people that we've had on it past, mate, have always turned around and said quite a few books. And there'll be a lot of people that'll go, no, shite, that's not the best book. But for a starter book, mate, for something with all the relative basic information in it, that's quite a good book. And it's reasonably, you can get it secondhand on eBay, mate, for like £6-7. A good book to start you off with a lot of good information in it, but it goes through all the types, all the categories of all the fish that are pretty much out there and available. How to enjoy the hobby, everything. A colourful and comprehensive calibration of these beautiful ornamental fish. It's not the best of books, mate, but it's a good place to start. And that's that book, mate.
This is another good book. Oh, how do I make that less shiny?
Turn it off the light from, there we go. Fish diseases.
Mate, if you want to look about...
Handbook of Fish Diseases.
That's quite a good book, that one.
That's another good one as well, mate.
I think the internet's kind of broken all these books, though, isn't it?
It has, mate, but there's some people that, there is no beating or turning and looking around in a book. There are other books out there, mate. I mean, give Crafty a ring at Perfect Aquatics, mate, and he'll tell you all the types of best books that are out there. But, I mean, there's basic, parasites and stuff like that all inside it. Also, they all look, showing you what they look like. Oops, sorry, and what to expect. It's a reasonably good book. Interesting and down to the point, tells you all forms of medicine, treatments and stuff but there's not so many pictures in that one.
Gotta love a good picture in a book.
Well, yeah, if you look, for example, we'll go to a couple of pages in on this. You got all your contents there at the beginning, as always, and then you've got information about keeping koi with categories of fish within it.
The nice asagi, that.
It is a nice asagi, isn't it? That's a banger. But they've got all the different types, all the different, you can go through, for example, there, you get into your Sankey. Oh, my God.
How times change, eh?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at stuff now, a lot of those Sankeys modern day Sankeys don't look anything like, do they? But then you've got, so there's all the basics, mate. Good book, reasonably priced, eBay, less than a tenner. Good place to start. If you get interested and you get more into it and you want more English, I read that, our English bread, and you want more in-depth knowledge, there are lots of other books out there available, mate. And there is many a person. Mr. Tate, drop him a message and he'll tell you of a good book that you can get.
It's got loads of books.
He's got more books than you could shake a stick at. I would
He's got
imagine.
a library, isn't he?
Yeah. I think we've pretty much. Now then, I'm going to share this one, Dave Thompson. Right, this one is driving me up the wall. Oh, I keep getting mistaken for this gentleman. Myself and Koi Pond Lifestyle. Andy from Koi Pond Lifestyle. A lot of people keep asking me questions about Andy's ponds and his stuff, saying, I mean,
if to be fair, if you two had a baby, it'd be the Rolf Harris.
So Dave's put that one in because he asked me a question the other day about the cat toilet, and we were saying, like, can you tell me what your results are on the cat toilet? And they were like, well, I would do if I'd got one, mate, but I ain't got one, so I can't. And then when I watched it, I watched his video and I thought, oh, damn, another person that's mistaken myself and Andy again. But it's happened at the shows as well. I've even got told not to stick my camera in the vats. That wasn't me. But yeah, there's been another guy came up to me and said, love your channel. Every day's a school day. I went, what? You stood outside of me in my own jumper that says Gaz's Koi Pond on it, and you come up to me saying, every day's a school day. Oh, never mind. There you go.
Maybe.
Well, it is. It's a good saying, but it's not my saying. Anyway, guys.
If you listen to my lad, when you go to school, you learn nothing. So every day is not a school day because you learn nothing. Can't knock him.
I can't knock him. He learns nothing. He's a clever kid, mate. He must be learning something. Are English bred koi more hardy to diseases like carp pox than Japanese?
No.
No.
I wish they were. They're more used to the environment. If you've got a cold, wintry pond in Yorkshire, and if they're being shipped from an English farm at 10 degrees where they've been for ages and they're going somewhere so yes, on one hand they're less susceptible because they're more acclimatized, but they're not stronger or.
I see, that's what surprised me when you said earlier on tonight about Shura Suri not really liking the cold. You know that shuri that I got from you last year? That was the last fish. That was the last fish in my pond, still swimming around everywhere where everybody else were parked up. Your fish still cruising around everywhere.
Yeah,
Not
but
bothered. And it did so for about another week or two longer than the rest of the fish.
Honestly, mate, they are a nightmare. But you're dealing with a fish that's more used to that. It's acclimatized, isn't it? So
yours is already, that's like 2-year-old fish, so we're already used to swimming around in colder temps because it's experienced down there.
It is koi are just literally what their environment gives them. So, like at the National, Vince's fish, he didn't have the best fish at the National, but by the end of the weekend, his fish was some of the happiest fish at the National because they were swimming around in water that's gone up and down in temperature, and that's just normal to them.
Normal to them.
They were prepared right. They were acclimatized to it, and yet you get other people like Lee's fish, for example. They spend their lives at 24 degrees, absolutely consistent, beautiful temperature, perfect for what you want for rearing high quality fish. He's had to cool them down for the National, which is done gradually in a controlled manner.
Yeah,
it's done in a very controlled manner. They go to the show, they sit in a show vat, and the temperature swung, what they say, 9 degrees water temperature in the 24-hour period.
Yeah,
these fish are like, half of them are spawned, and the other half are going, "Oh my god, I just want to." Yeah. So there you have a
complete opposite scale.
Yeah, it's just literally that some fish are used to that, and some fish aren't.
So stability is key, whether it be warm or cold.
Stability is key, but if fish are used to, if you've got a heated pond that is running at 24 degrees, it's artificially controlled at 24 degrees. It's stable, but it's stable to the point of half a degree. Whereas one of our ponds, a shallow pond that's sat in the sun, where we're growing the fish, they could go into the sun in the afternoon and be sat at 30 degrees, and they could drop down and be at 20 degrees. And then on a cold night, that some of that pond might be down to 10 degrees, and they're changing massive temperature changes. Like Vince's pond at home is going to change. He can't control that. His pond is what the ambient is, and it will change maybe 2 degrees on 2 or 3 degrees on a cold night. Those fish start getting acclimatized to those swings. So when he goes to a show vat and it changes, they didn't give a monkeys, did they?
Yeah.
There was no stress event. There was no sitting about. There was no pinking of the skin. They were just cruising around. It's a normal day at home.
Yeah, what they normal do. Yeah, normal day. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's just how you react to a different environment, isn't it? It's just in an ideal world, if you're going to show fish, you perhaps take your fish out, put them in a little round blue vat, and expose them to temperature swings, and then they get used to it. So when you take them to a show, they're like, "Oh, this is just normal." It's not a big event, is it? This is normal.
Yeah, familiarization again.
Same, yeah, it's the same thing. That you do it with puppy. You do it. I remember the days when you used to say, "Oh, don't touch your puppy for 8 weeks. Just leave it in the corner." That's what you're supposed to do. Oh, don't go near them. Now it's like drag them out, expose them to 100 different people, make as many noises around them as you possibly can, hoover them, smash around, so that they have no fear factor of anything in their lives because they've seen it all.
Desensitized.
Different topic. Gone off on a tangent, but
well, I don't know so much, Rick. I kind of think that with netting your fish as well. A lot of people don't agree with it, but if you leave your net in your pond when you're doing something, and the fish aren't spooked by it because they see it on a regular basis, when you actually need to net a fish up, they're slightly more desensitized to it than a pond that never ever sees a net because nobody goes near them or don't bother with them or don't net them or don't ball them up or out. So
we're going to get to a whole new topic here, right?
Yeah,
I've not broached this one ever before, but there's like the shows. You're not supposed to show fish, right? You show them, you're supposed to give them 4 weeks or whatever before you show them again. If you expose fish to being caught, bowled, and that way of life, like you go to a lot of jack places, you can go, those fish are spending their whole lives caught, put into nets, put into bowls. You catch them, you put in a bowl. They come in to see it. They'll take food out your hand, sat in a bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we take our fish out of a mud pond or whatever, and you put them, they go absolute
They
batshit.
go nuts, yeah.
My God.
They rattle around inside of them, don't they?
So I understand the principle of, you can't, it's too stressful to take your fish to a show and do whatever. But actually, if your fish are used to that catching, moving environment, they ain't no more stressed at any point catching, bowling and moving them. In fact, it's probably better for them to be done regular rather than once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you know yourself, if your fish are sat in your pond for 2 years and then you catch them and bowl them and try and photograph them, they go absolutely
they ain't keeping still. They're flying around pond like loonies when you're trying to net them. But, yeah.
So, again, it's a desensitized program. If nothing bad happens to those fish when they go through that process, they soon learn that it's not a bad process, is it? It's not being caught and bowled and looked at and measured. The more you catch and bowl your fish, the less stressful it is to catch and bowl your fish. So from that point of view, perhaps you should catch and bowl your fish once a week. Some people say that's bad, but actually if you do it once a week from when you had the fish, is that not less stressful?
Yeah, it's all the fish would ever have ever known, wouldn't it? So
just, I don't know. A beer and ice. Why not?
Well, I mean, I personally, because my pond's always been quite awkward and small, and I've always had that net on, and having the net on, but to take the lilies off in my old pond, to get the old dead lilies out, I used to lift up the net. I used to put it up, pin it out of the way. Then I'd get in the pond, I'd get the nets out, get the lilies out by hand or what have you, and then I'd go back round. And I'd quite often, I've been having chats with people on group chats and what have you on WhatsApp, and I'd be just have video pointing at me while I was talking to them and doing what I was doing. And fish would just be swimming up to me, and I'd be able to pick them up, have a quick look at them, let them go. And then, the more that you do that regular, the more the fish weren't bothered with me being in and around them or being about them because they knew it. But then when you're on the outside of the pond, they're coming up to edge to look at you, to come close to you, so you can give them that little bit of food in nice and close. But then when you get a predator that wants to eat fish, your fish desensitize, and then shit hits the fan, and they eat 14 of them, and then
But that's the thing, though, isn't it? So in a random way, you say the people that catch and bowl their fish regular have got an unfair advantage when they go to the show because those fish are quite happy.
Yeah, well, for example, when you look at like all the fish that they've got in Japan now, they're all getting netted up, they're all getting harvested, they all get brought in, they all get put in a net, they're putting them in a bowl. They have the exact complete opposite effect in a bowl than what ours do, don't they? You put them in a bowl, they charge around at first, but they just sit there. They don't move. They pose for a camera shot. All right. You might get the odd one every now and again.
You got to be.
Yeah, I know that they do sedate for the pictures and what have you a little bit just to keep them still. But in general terms, when they bring them in a bag and they pop them in a bowl and they pick them up and then just pick them up and like pop them in like it's no. You try and get hold of your fish, one of your fish, if you've never ever done it, and measure it up, it's flashing around like crazy, isn't it? And they seem to be able to turn them over a lot more easier as well than what we do with that. For maybe it is familiarization.
Those 2-year-old fish that you're seeing on camera there have probably been in an environment with humans pretty much all their lives, aren't they? When they're in the fish houses all winter, and they get caught out, graded, sorted, bowled, and they do get used to it. There is no doubt in it. And the more you handle them, the more you deal with them, the less stress event it is for them. It's normal, isn't it?
Rick says Natsumi will beg to differ. Sorry.
Me and Natsumi are like this now. Maybe like that.
Yeah,
I don't know which.
Yeah. Dave Thompson says, can you recommend a water meter to test chlorine pH, DTS, is that dissolvable or something, whatever it is, and oxygen? Blue Lab does some of that, but I don't know if there's one that does them all. Is there?
I'd have to be honest and say we've always used separate stuff to test everything, because as soon as you got one that does them all, generally they don't do none of them very well.
Well, the Blue Lab Guardian monitors pH. I'm sure it does something else. pH.
Guys, you Google it. I'll just Google a wee.
Let's see. The Blue Lab Guardian monitors Wi-Fi. It's got Wi-Fi on it, backlit LED, blah, 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 blah. What does it detect? I'm sure it does a few things. Or there is more than one. Flipping heck, but they ain't cheap. Oh, there we go. TDS, temperature, pH. There you go. Up north. Yeah, I've just found it, mate. Just a second as you typed it in. But I don't know if there's one that does. I don't know if there's one that does chlorine as well. You got your pH, you got DTS, doesn't do the oxygen, doesn't do the chlorine. I think you'd probably have to find an oxygen monitor and maybe a chlorine tester individually or separately. I'd agree with that one, Mr. Tape, 100%. Jigs, Atsumi disagrees with himself. Yeah, and extremely confusing when he starts talking, or he or she, whichever it may be. I'm not sure. Right then, ladies and gents, I'm going to do what we always do, unless anybody else has got any more topics that we want to talk about this evening. I might actually wait for Rick to get back, and then we shall say our farewells and good nights for the evening. Gives me the chance to have a slightly early finish, he says, by literally about 20 minutes. So we'll wait for Rick to get back. Let's see if there's anything else that I missed beforehand. There you go. There's one. If you're enjoying tonight's live, can you please show some support and hit the like and the thumbs up button and consider subscribing if you haven't. Thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate it. I don't think I missed any. If I did, I apologise. Rick's just literally cracked open another beer there. Just as we're about to come to an end, Rick, as well, you just popped open one last one for the road.
It's never an end, guys. You know that, because then it
True.
goes off and I can't get off the thing, and then... Did you answer the question?
Good night, as always. Good night, all, and have a cracking weekend. Big love, Jigs. Yep, there we go then, guys. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Usual thing, guys, if you've been enjoying this kind of content, do us a huge favour. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend. And until next time, guys, keep smiling, and we'll catch you on the next one. Good night, all.
Good night. Love you
Stick
all.
it in on the end. Cricket.
I'm not putting it.